Welcome to the March 17th, 2015 meeting of the Carson City Cultural Commission. My name is Peter Barton, and I'm filling in here unexpectedly until the vice chair arrives or until we conduct our election here. So we've called the meeting to order, and if I could ask the secretary to call the roll, please.
Vice Chairperson Goodley. Commissioner Barton.
Present.
Commissioner Abab. Here. Commissioner Downey. Commissioner McBride.
Here.
Commissioner Daneo.
Present.
Commissioner Cook.
Here.
A quorum is present.
Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is public comments. Members of the public who wish to address the Cultural Commission may come forward and speak on matters related to the Commission. Comments may be limited to 3 minutes per person or topic. If your item requires extended discussion or action, please request the chairperson to schedule the matter for a future meeting. No action may be taken on a matter raised under this item of the agenda until the matter itself has been specifically included on an agenda as an item upon which action may be taken. This time I'll invite members of the public to come forward if you have public comment. Seeing none at this time and seeing the vice chair is arriving,
Yay.
I will turn the gavel happily to my right. Eleanor? Welcome.
Thank you.
We're on agenda item 3A, which is the introduction of new and reappointed Cultural Commission members. And I guess, Roger, if you want to take it while Ellie gets settled?
To go up, excuse me, I'm sorry. We're on item number 1. We haven't gotten to the approval of the minutes yet.
Oh, my gosh. Sorry, go ahead.
Like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes, or if anyone has any corrections or additions, to let us know.
Move approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, carries.
Abstain, I wasn't here.
Yes. Okay, next is to item 2, modifications of the agenda. If anyone on the commission would like to change the order or the time schedule, we had a request from Sharon Ross for a little extra time for her presentation. So we will allow that. Any other changes? No. Okay, let's move on to item 3, introduction of the new and reappointed commission members. So first we have the renewal of Danielle. And did you have anything you wanted to say about your reappointment?
I guess I'm glad to be back, and I'm really excited about what we're going to be doing over the next 3 years. I think we're finally going to start getting some nitty-gritty work and really get a cultural plan for Carson City moved forward. So I'm glad to still be a part of this. So, yay.
Excellent. And our other new commissioner is Barbara Dineo.
I'm really pleased to be here, and I thank you for your approval the last time I came before you. And I really look forward to this because I think arts in Carson City is just about the best anywhere that I've seen. Pleased to be here.
And Barbara, do you know everyone else on the commission?
I have met, well, of course, I know Karen very well, Danielle, and I have met, we just met. I know you, and I've met Terry. So,
Okay, very
nice
good.
group.
Do we have any comments from the public? Okay. Next, item 3B is to elect a chairperson and vice chairperson for the commission. And I'll turn it over to Vern.
Thank you. The way the we got a real good echo here. The way the bylaws are written for the commission is that at the first meeting of each calendar year, the Carson City Cultural Commission shall pursue a notice agenda item to elect a chairperson who shall preside at the meetings. The commission shall then choose a vice chairperson. The vice chairperson shall preside in the absence of the chairperson. So tonight you get to basically pick your leadership for the next year. The way it works, just so before anybody raises their hand and charges down that aisle, I wanted to let you know that typically as we put together agendas and or have other issues that are related to the commission, we communicate typically with the chair and vice chair so that they would have the opportunity to be involved in those things on a regular basis. That doesn't eliminate any of you calling Roger and calling Roger and talking to him about issues related to the Cultural Commission, but when we attend or when we think we need to get some input from the commission, if we have a meeting, typically we'll typically invite the chair or vice chair to attend. We'll get their thoughts. We'll run ideas past them. So, staff really sees these two positions as more than just running a meeting. So keep that in mind as you select the person who you want to be your leader for the next year.
And Vern, I just want to add that sitting on the Board of Supervisors, I am not allowed to be, so just making everybody aware.
Thank you.
I have a question. Jesse, Are they still on the commission?
Yes, Jesse is still on the commission at this time, yes.
I just want to add that Jesse's going through, his father passed away, so he's going through a difficult time right now.
Okay.
So we will take some nominations.
I'd like to nominate Ellie as chair and Terry McBride as vice chair.
I'm happy to second that.
I'd like to nominate Peter as chair.
And I would like to support Ellie's nomination as chair. So there you go. There you go.
I think it's a done deal.
Do need the commission to take action,
To vote,
to vote.
yes.
Are there any other nominations?
So for the record, we have 2 nominations for chairperson, and one is Commissioner Martin and the other is Commissioner McBride, correct? Okay, got that. No?
No.
No, it was-
One is Commissioner Barton and the other is Commissioner Bugley.
okay, that's what I wanted to clarify, okay.
Then we'll do these separately. So
yeah.
first, how do we do this if we have to?
Everybody put their head down and raise it.
Yeah, I would just, if I may make a statement, I am flattered by the confidence, but having served as chair a couple of terms and enjoyed it, I would certainly think that some new voice would be better serving this commission. I'm flattered, but I'm throwing my support behind your nomination.
And I'm flattered, but I have a tendency to be overcommitted and late.
May I ask, is it appropriate to ask that the nominations be closed and to elect the slate?
Yep.
So moved.
Okay, all in favor?
We need a second. I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Good luck. Interesting year ahead.
At this point, didn't you just vote on closing the nomination?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And
so
that
now-
we elect the slate.
Oh, okay, let's slide, okay.
Yeah.
Since they're only, it's by acclamation.
So for those, they always say when the train's leaving the station, raise your hand. And so we now have Commissioner Bugley as chair and Commissioner Bride as vice chair, correct? Okay, very good.
Let's see, I need your names. Look at this, we have this under control.
Peter, thank you for letting us know, us members who were fairly recent arrivals, letting us know that you had served before. That helped the nomination process.
Are there any comments from the public? Okay, we'll move on to item 3C, and that is to approve the final graphic designs for the city street banners. Joel.
Thank you. It's, I think, been just short of a year now that we did the first presentation for a partnership that would be with not only the Cultural Commission, the Visitors Bureau, and also the Downtown Business Association to put banners throughout Fairview, Carson Street, Curry, and all of the side streets between Curry and Carson Street. So what I have as a presentation tonight as you walked in, throughout the last year, I'll touch first, we've had some tremendous success in Carson City. We've gone through a rebranding effort. We've been able to successfully celebrate the sesquicentennial through the NV150, and our community was the center of that celebration, and we certainly benefited greatly from it. Ultimately, although we've been able to do a rebranding and showcasing the arts and the culture and outdoor recreation and everything that Carson City has to offer visitors, I have to measure the success based on the return on the investment. Where are we? And we're about almost 2 years into me being the executive director. We've been able to rebuild a staff, and I'm happy to say that as of last month, our room tax revenues are absolutely amazing. We are certainly above the entire region. We're leading the state. We're up 24% in our trailing 12, ADRs up. Every measure of success that I would have hoped 2 years in, we've been able to achieve, and that's certainly the result of a great staff that we have. So I want to commend them on everything they're doing and thank them in the community for embracing the rebranding effort. Now, on the banners, we were looking at trying to celebrate and showcase all that Carson City is. Through that rebranding effort over the last year, we've been able to put together some very dynamic and diverse photos of everything that Carson City has to offer. The direction that we went at the beginning of the branding effort was your experience starts here. That was showcasing Carson City as the hub of the region, why people needed to come to Carson City, whether you were here for business, leisure traveler, sports, arts, and also celebrating the region within Tahoe and Virginia City and how close we are to Reno, but staying in Carson City and spending your money here. Through that time, we've been able to put together a little over 5,000 images of Carson City. One of the directives that I had from my board was, in our rebranding, we need new images, we need new faces, we need a whole new approach. I have just a small sample, about 48. There's going to be nearly 100 banners that we put together throughout this project, once again partnering with not only you, but the Downtown Business Association. You can see just how amazing this is going to be down Carson Street in Fairview. You're going to be having not only the faces of Carson City, but the personalities. When people come in to visit, I can say we have about 90 of these up in our conference room. And over the course of the last month, we've had quite a few meetings with some event promoters and some directors coming in, and I find them just looking at the wall. And we had one of them mention last week, well, this looks like an amazing place to live. And I have to agree, which makes it an even better place to visit. Now, the banners that are in the partnership with the Cultural Commission are going to be the ones that are in the middle, the split banners. Those of you that have had a chance to drive down Fairview, I think we're looking at 36 banners just on Fairview alone. The size is going to be more of what's on the back wall, a little bit longer with those. These are 24 by 36, and I think we have a couple of that actually get upwards of about 40 inches, looking at the brackets on Fairview. So the reason why we changed some of the images to really showcase the faces, when you're driving 35 miles an hour down Fairview, you need to be able to quickly see the images. The one thing we did talk about at the beginning, and I would encourage you, I did have Tara Burke with me at the first meeting, and we talked to the commission about maybe redesigning your logo for you. The logo that you're currently using will certainly be difficult to read while driving down Fairview. I would offer that again before we move forward, if you so choose tonight, to have us bring that back to you. I'm looking at putting these banners up starting about the middle of May. This is a grant project that I put together with Nevada Commission on Tourism. We received a grant for $10,000 matching funds, so the total project cost is going to be about $20,000. I'm currently into the project just under $5,000. That was showcasing some of the NV150 sesquicentennial banners that we did throughout town, but it's also buying some of the new bracketry we're going to need to hang these banners, not only on Fairview. Fairview's missing about 20% of the brackets, and as were some of the ones downtown. So that's kind of the time frame. One thing I wanted to touch on before I leave, even though it's a little off topic, if you look at the top, we went from Your Experience Starts Here. We have a couple of new campaigns that we're launching right now, which is the Be Our Guest and also the hashtags, so that we can kind of explain. And if you don't mind, I'll have Kyle step up. Kyle is the marketing director for the Visitors Bureau, and just to touch on what our Be Our Guest campaign is going to be.
All right, cool. So two things here. Really the nice thing about having faces on here instead of landscapes is not only is it going to bring a lot of community pride as we're driving down and we're seeing people, hey, I know that person, or oh, hey, that's me right there. But as from a visitor standpoint, it's also going to be able to be very relatable when they come through town. They're going to be able to see their face holding the fish where the trout is over there, or at the show or riding their bikes. So it's going to be really easy for people to put themselves in that position of our quality of life. Now, with the Be Our Guest aspect, after 2 years of doing this rebranding, what I relate this to, or what I was envisioning was, you buy a new house, you spend a year repainting it, putting pictures on the walls, doing the landscaping, and when your house looks good and you're ready for it, you throw a dinner party. You invite people over to be your guest. Well, I feel like Carson City has spent the last year and a half putting the fresh coat of paint on, getting the new images, doing the landscaping. Now it's time to go ahead and open up the doors and invite people to be our guests to enjoy our town. So that was the base of what we were going for here. But with that said, it's extremely positive. Inviting people into the state capitol. We're parlaying off of the #1 state capitol in the country. But at the same time, we're also encouraging businesses that are tourism friendly to also use the Be Our Guest hashtag. So what that does is that allows people who are following that hashtag to see that the museum is open for visitors, that this restaurant is friendly to tourism, that this gift shop is open, and welcoming visitors. You'll see when you get closer that the star on the top there is actually in foreign languages. So all of the languages that Travel Nevada promotes to for visitors to come here, we've been noticing that they've been showing up. Well, we want to have a message in their language. Again, breaking down the barriers, letting them know that they're our guest here. So we're translating our welcome message into 7 different languages. We're sending that out with Travel Nevada to go out to Europe and Brazil and Asia to promote that. And then when they get here, they're going to see all these great images hanging in the street. They're going to know that they're welcome in Carson City, and then this is going to be the place that they choose to base their adventure out of. So that's a little bit behind the Be Our Guest campaign.
I'd like to ask a question, please. You said that the vision is it's going to cost about $20,000 and that you have $10,000 has already been appropriated to this. And where do you envision the other 10 is going to come from?
Well, the partnership that we have in place, there's no funding mechanism coming from the Cultural Commission. The Commission is partnering with Public Works, and Public Works has allocated $4,000. That $4,000 will be in kind, which will be part of the matching grant. That will actually go to be putting up the banners for us on Fairview, because it will take a lift truck. The partnership with the Downtown Business Association, they're providing $5,000 towards the project, and the remainder of it, and also in kind, and the graphics will all be done through the Bureau. Great question.
It's a good project.
Any other question from commissioners? Any questions from the public? Okay, we will move on to item 3. Do I need a motion?
To approve the final graphic design.
Do you want me to make it?
Yes, okay.
I'll go ahead and make it. I move to approve the final graphic design for the city street banners to include a redesign of the Cultural Commission's logo as a part of the Carson City Visitor Bureau's Experience Starts Here marketing campaign that includes various images of the city's arts and cultural events, activities, and experiences.
Second.
Any discussion?
I'd simply want to congratulate Joel and his team for the great work on this. This is a great thing to see, and having it populated with people, as you said, Kyle, makes the immediate connection for visitors coming here. The fact that it's consistent with what Travel Nevada, my boss, is doing, and spreading out to the languages and to the countries they market to. Congratulations. Thank you.
Last question. How often will these be turned to the next views?
Well, I didn't really touch on the design, but I would like to add, if you notice, you've got a series of different logos. The same thing will happen with the banners on Fairview. Once we redesign your logo, one side will be, they'll be relating. So whether it'll be, for instance, on this one, you've got 2 different images. There'll be an image on one side with your logo, one on the other. The life of these are going to be about 5 years. So we'll look at coming back in about 5 years. We're spending probably twice the cost per banner that most communities spend on these. But I noticed that the longevity of the NV150 banners, which we had absolutely no problems with, and the windstorms are guiding us in that direction. So we won't be back for another 5 years. Okay.
Any other comments? Okay, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried
Thank you.
unanimously. Okay, I see Sherry is here, and we're up to item 3D for the discussion on the Stewart Indian School.
I'll push the button.
You'll be the clicker?
I'll be the clicker.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I want to thank the committee and Terry McBride for inviting me to be here with you this evening to talk about my very favorite subject, the Stewart Indian School. I see we have the PowerPoint up. I am the executive director of the State of Nevada's Indian Commission, and I have the distinct honor of working with the 27 tribal nations in the state of Nevada on behalf of Governor Sandoval. My office is located out at the former Stewart Indian Boarding School in South Carson, and I'm hoping that some of you, if not all of you, have made your way out to the Stewart Indian School at some point. And if not, that you definitely will come out. I'd love to give you a tour of the school to show you exactly what I'm going to be talking about this evening. I thought what I would do is to begin with a brief history of the school for those of you that are unfamiliar with the school and why it's so important to me and to the state and to many others to preserve the school. Because sometimes people will ask me, well, you know, what's unique about the Stewart Indian School? Why should we preserve that particular school? So I'm going to tell you why. So if we can go ahead. The Stewart Indian School was established in 1890 and closed in 1980. It was the only off-reservation Indian boarding school in the state of Nevada, created by an act of state legislature in 1888. In fact, it was the only Indian boarding school across the nation to be enacted by a state legislature. This is a photo of the original school building out at Stewart, and it's no longer there. It was located at the south end of the campus and opened as the Carson Indian Training School in December of 1890 with just 37 students and 3 teachers. Later on in the enrollment records, we see that at any one time there were between 400 and 500 students there at the school. So it became rather large. You might wonder, what is the philosophy or the intent of the Indian boarding schools? And really it was assimilation. At that point or period in time, the federal government perceived that there was an Indian problem. And the Indian problem was that the Indian tribes didn't want to give up their lands to the federal government. So what they decided to do in all of their wisdom is to take our Indian children away from their families, from their culture, from their language, and take them to these boarding schools which were located far from the homelands. And they did that by design because they didn't want any familial influence or tribal influence on these children. They wanted to immerse them in a different culture and a different language. And so they initially targeted the children of the Indian chiefs and pretty much used them as leverage. When the tribal governments, when they entered into treaties with the federal government, the agreement was that in exchange for our land, federal government, you will provide us with education, you will provide us with housing, you will provide us with the needs, the basic needs. And so when the Indian people were rounded up and put on these reservations, if they didn't want to give their children up to go to these schools, the government would use the children as leverage. So they would withhold food, they would withhold blankets for the winter time. And the chiefs had to look at the greater good, what was good for their people. And so they would have to give up their children to go to these boarding schools so that their people could have food and survive. This photo here is a Navajo man, Tom Torlino, and he actually attended the very first Indian school in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. And so you can see Tom on the left-hand side, and that's him coming off of the reservation. And then on the right-hand side, Tom 3 years later. He looks very different outwardly, his outward appearance. But what really they wanted to change was what was on the inside, the value system. Thank you.
Did I move too quick?
No,
All right.
perfect. So this is a photo of one of the early classrooms out at Stewart. And, once these children got to the Stewart Indian School, they were no longer able to speak their language. Everything that made them look Indian was stripped from them. They were assigned English names and immersed in the English language. So in 1879, Army Captain Richard Pratt took 84 children from the Rosebud and Pine Ridge reservations in the Dakota Territory to the very first Indian school in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. And you can see here in the photo, Pine Ridge was in the middle of the country. And they took those children halfway across to Pennsylvania. And in the 1800s, they didn't have the automobiles that we do and the freeways. They had wagons and buckboards, and they would arrive onto the reservations, round up the children, and put them on these wagons and take them across the country. By 1902, there were 25 schools in operation, and the Stewart Indian School was one of those first 25.
Should I try it?
For time's sake, I think I have about 20 minutes.
We're doing well on time, right?
Oh, are you?
We're doing really well on time.
Okay, well, if it will come up, I would like to show you the clip.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's try it.
Cannot locate.
It's not at all excited about that. It's right here.
No. The internet server or proxy server.
Yeah, I'm not connected to the internet.
Okay.
I didn't realize I needed to be. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So what that clip is, it's from Into the West. It was a miniseries on TV, and it does a really good job of showing that piece where the federal officials are arriving on the reservation, rounding up the children, and them walking into Carlisle, and then what it was like for those children. And it really evokes a lot of emotion. That's why I like to show it. So, but if you come out to Stewart, I'd be happy to show that to you when you come out for your tour. So this is a photo of the an older photo of the children at the school, and you can see that they're in their little uniforms. And you can see to the far left really how small some of them were. Some came as young as 4 years old to Stewart. And when they came that young, they weren't able to stay in the dorms. And so they would be assigned to a family of faculty. The faculty lived out in the cottages at Stewart on the west side of the campus. And so the children that young would be assigned to a family. And some of you may know or have known Earl Laird Jr. His father, Earl Laird, was the band director out at Stewart for almost 40 years. And I had the opportunity to interview Earl Laird Jr., and he told me, because he grew up out at Stewart, that a little boy named Clarence was assigned to his family. So Clarence came to live with them, and in recounting the story to me, he was in tears. And he was talking about Clarence and how Clarence had become really close to Earl Jr.'s mother. And there came that day when the young boy had to be placed into the dorm. And so Earl recounted the little boy being pulled away from his mother, and his mother was crying, and the little boy was screaming and crying and had to go to the dorms. And then he also talked about how the little boy would run away. And he would run from the dorms to the west side of the campus where children were not allowed, the students were not allowed, just to get a hug from Earl's mother. And I think that's, not only did these schools affect the language of the Indian people and our traditions and customs, but as a young child like that, if you don't have parents or grandparents or family members that are there to hug you and kiss you and tell you that they love you if you've had a bad day or you've fallen on the playground, and you don't get that nurturing, then how do you, as you grow up, nurture your own children or your grandchildren? So I think that's something also that we lost in the process. And I'm not saying that that's for every individual, because every individual has a different story at Stewart. And that's one thing that we're trying to preserve at the school, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a few minutes here. Some of the first students out at Stewart were from our Great Basin tribes, the Washoe, Paiute, and Shoshone people. And the school initially was a K through 8th grade, and then in the later years it became just a high school. School attendance initially was mandatory, and as you see here, they had to wear uniforms. It was very much run like a military camp. Its origins were with the military, as we saw earlier with Army Captain Pratt. And that school, Carlisle Indian School, was a military installation and still is to this day. And so that kind of transcended across these boarding schools throughout the nation. And I have many relatives that went to the Stewart Indian School. In fact, Hillman Toby is one of the oldest known alumni that's still alive. He just turned 100 years old today. He's from Pyramid Lake. He didn't turn it today, but this year. He's from Pyramid Lake, and I've interviewed him many times. And he talks about waking up to reveille in the morning and having to do his chores. They'd get up at 5. He'd have to do his chores. They'd make their beds military style. They'd have to line up in front of the dorms and be inspected. And if they passed inspection, they could march on to the dining hall. If not, they had to go back in. And so once to the dining hall, they had a certain amount of time to eat. They had to put up their trays at a certain time, and then they would march off to the classrooms. So very regimented out at Stewart. And there were very strict rules, no language. And if you did, you were punished. And in the early years, it was very harsh punishments, like beatings and whippings, which of course we don't do anymore in our schools. And then in the later years, it was more taking away their privileged passes and given more chores to do, like cleaning the wooden floors with toothbrushes and things like that. So the curriculum out at Stewart was very different for boys and girls as far as the vocational training went. Boys were taught things like ranching, blacksmithing, mechanics, woodworking, painting, and carpentry. And my husband's great-grandfather, Henry Moses Rupert, grandmother and grandfather, John and Virginia Rupert, went to the Stewart Indian School. And John was taught mechanics out at Stewart, and he ended up establishing Rupert's Auto Body here in Carson City, which is still here, and now the grandsons run the establishment. And his grandmother, Virginia, next slide, she learned all of these skills of baking, cooking, sewing, laundry, and nursing, and she utilized that after she graduated and came down and worked for the children's home. I think that was near and dear to her heart because she was an orphan. And when she came to Stewart, she came very young as well, 9 years old, and she remained there. She never went back to her reservation up in Owyhee, Duck Valley Reservation. She remained here in Carson City. But she taught those little girls everything that she had learned out here at Stewart. And I always teased the boys because they were always so spoiled by her, because she always did their laundry and she would iron everything for them. And I said, well, I'm not her, so we'll take it to the dry cleaners. Sports, as many of you might know, was very popular out at the Stewart Indian School. Seems as though every time I give a presentation to adults, even down at the legislature, invariably there's somebody that has had an experience or a connection to the Stewart Indian School, and that usually has to do with the sports. I've had several legislators tell me that they went to state out at Stewart, or that they participated in basketball out at Stewart. So it's amazing. Even the governor said that he played basketball out at Stewart.
Too fast?
Yeah.
Fast, okay, sorry.
So that began in 1896, and they competed under the mascot of the Braves. And I've heard even the football team scrimmaged against the University of Nevada, Reno at one point. Okay. This is a photo of a basketball team, and basketball was very popular out at the school, and I hear countless stories about the way in which the students at the Stewart Indian School played basketball, and that is, instead of passing the ball how we normally see it, they would pass the ball by rolling it on the floor, which was very confusing to the other teams, and they would be wondering what's going on while Stewart was making the baskets. So, and they won the state championship in 1966. Boxing was also huge out at Stewart. The old photos of the Stewart Indian Schools and the stories talk about how lush and beautiful the campus was, with tree-lined streets and trellises with beautiful roses connecting the buildings. And so Stewart was very popular in that people wanted to come here. They wanted to be on the campus because it was so lush and beautiful. And so these boxing bouts weren't just for Nevada, they were regional bouts that would attract out-of-staters to come here. And their bouts were in Moccasin Square Garden. So a little bit like Madison Square Garden, but very talented athletes, and some even going to the Olympic semifinals. There was a pool out at Stewart in front of where our building is, the Nevada Indian Commission building, and that provided recreation and served out also as a baptismal pond, and that pool was filled in the 1940s. I mentioned Earl Laird, who was the band director. The band also was very popular and used more as a public relations tool for the school. They would take the students out and participate in many activities, not only in the state, but in the region. Actually, that particular picture, Virginia Rupert is in that picture. She played the clarinet in that band. One other tradition that we try to carry on with the alumni, of course, is participation in the Nevada Day Parade. Stewart Indian School participated in every parade from 1896 to 1979. And in 2009, the Indian Commission partnered with the alumni for our very first entry or re-entry into the Nevada Day Parade. And these are some photos of what we did that first year. We had alumni participate, and they were actually on the float. And actually, I believe Hillman and Flora Green, who is another one of the oldest alumni, she turned 98 today, and she's also a relative of mine. So they were on the float, and then we had their high school photos underneath them, which was really cool. And they were so excited to be on the float and to have everybody clap for them as they went down the parade route. So things began to change. Federal policy changed in 1934 with the Indian Reorganization Act, which allowed the tribes more self-determination and more governance over their membership. And That also changed things out at the Stewart Indian School. It relaxed it a bit. They no longer had to wear uniforms, and as you can see in this photo, they could wear regular clothing, and they also participated in more outings and were able to show a little more cultural expression on the campus, though they were still not able to speak their languages. By 1960s, the school had a reputation as a supportive environment for Native American students. And at this point in time, we see a change because Indian students initially were not allowed in the public school system. And during this period of time, they were. And so they had the option of spending their education either in the public school system or in these boarding schools. At that point in time, there was still a lot of discrimination against American Indians, and many felt it more supportive at these boarding schools. And so they chose to remain there. And in some cases, it almost became a tradition. Some of you might know and remember Mr. Bill Oliver. Bill was a third-generation employee at the Stewart Indian School, and he was a counselor at one point, and he went down to the bus station down here in Carson City to pick up a student. And he talked about, he was trying to make, small talk with the student as they went back to Stewart, and he was asking him, hey, where are you coming in from? And he's like, oh, I'm coming in from, Japan. And he's like, what? And he said, yeah, my dad went to the Stewart Indian School, and he wanted me to go too, and he's in the military. So he sent him all the way back here to go to the Stewart Indian School. So it's, it started out as something very terrible and taking the children away from their families. And then it became something a little different. It became supportive. And in some cases, it became almost a family for these students. As I said, they were allowed a little more cultural expression on the campus, and you see a pageant going on here. And by the 1970s, there was a waiting list to attend the Stewart Indian School. There are 27 tribes in the state of Nevada. There are 566 federally recognized tribes across the nation, and that doesn't include state-recognized tribes and tribes that are seeking federal recognition. So over the school's 90-year history, over 200 of those tribes were represented by the students that went to the Stewart Indian School. Many of those students graduated and went into the armed forces. Some became some of the legendary Marine code talkers who spoke Navajo. Stewart Indian School had a rather large Navajo program in the later years. As we know, the Japanese were never able to break that code, and that's because the Navajos are here in the United States. The school did close in 1980, and despite that closing, Stewart Indian School continues to be an important cultural center for American Indians, for the Western United States, and I would venture to say for the nation. It is on the National Register of Historic Places, and we do have a committee together that we have submitted a letter of intent to the National Park Service, and we would like to apply for a national landmark status for the school. So we're waiting to hear back on that. We also hold the Stewart Father's Day powwow every Father's Day weekend, and I believe we passed around one of the flyers for that. This year it is June 19th through the 21st. Those are the 2014 dates up there. But the 19th through the 21st, and it provides an opportunity for not only the alumni to come back, their families, but for the public to come out and to learn about our culture and to learn about the Stewart Indian School and the initiatives that we're moving forward with out at the school. Prior to our plans for a cultural center, which I'll talk about in a minute, we have implemented the Stewart Indian School Trail, and I believe you have a rack card for that as well. It's a self-guided cell phone walking tour of the campus. It is free and, of course, open to the public. We interviewed I believe 18 alumni and former employees about the Stewart Indian School in different areas on the campus, and we're able to record them. And so if you come out to the campus, you just dial into the phone number here on the rack card, and we have a map out there at the kiosk, and grab a map, and it directs you around the campus to these different stops. We have signage and just really compelling stories. And if you can't make it out to the campus, which I recommend that you do, you can go to our dedicated website, stewartindianschool.com, and all of those recordings are on there as podcasts, so you can listen to them anytime that you'd like. So, the Cultural Center. We are looking at establishing a cultural center in building number 1 out at Stewart. And we're also looking at a welcome center for the facility. The Cultural Center would allow us to share the history, the memorabilia, the photos, the artwork of the students that went to the Stewart Indian School. We do have a few collections that the Nevada State Museum is housing at this point, and the Nevada Indian Commission also has a collection of, people coming in and donating things to us, especially the coveted yearbooks from the Stewart Indian School. And so we want to be able to exhibit and tell the story of the Stewart Indian School in this cultural center. We want to be able to have an area, a computer lab where people can come in and do some research, because we're always getting phone calls and requests for research. But my office is an office of 3 for the entire state and for all Indian affairs in the state. And so we don't have the human resources to be able to take care of all of those requests that we get. So it would be great to have a resource center there where people could come in and do their own research. Because somebody's invariably is looking for the diploma, or they want a picture of their grandmother, or what years did their grandmother go to the school. And and I know that's very important to people and to their family history. So we want to do that. We also want to have space for demonstrations for our Native artists to come in and to demonstrate, for lectures, for even reading night or poetry night to share with the public. Programming, of course, we want to continue to do tours. Right now, we do it through my office upon request. But eventually, what we'd like to create, and I think it will benefit all of Carson City and potentially the region, is to create a cultural heritage destination. We know, and I know the state knows, that the cultural heritage traveler is the traveler that stays longer and spends more. And those are the types of tourists that we, of course, want to attract. And we also know that the cultural heritage travelers, some of the things that they like to see while in the United States are American Indians. They want to have that experience. And so what we want to create is an experience out at Stewart. And so eventually, we'd like to utilize more of the buildings out at Stewart to create this experience. And so that might look like a package that would include an overnight stay in one of the dorms. Maybe we would have a matron check you in, maybe assign you a new name, cut off your hair. No, I'm just kidding. And, assign bedding to you and just kind of give you that full experience of what it was like. We wouldn't cut your hair. And then, march you off to the dining hall at a certain time, have a meal, and maybe finish off the evening in the auditorium and take in a play or a movie. And so that's kind of what we're planning. You may have heard in the governor's State of the State address, he mentioned the Stewart Indian School and the Stewart Indian School Living Legacy. And so what we see in the governor's recommended budget is the beginnings, the planning, the first phase of this, including the Welcome Center and the Cultural Center and a few staff to begin the planning process. So I always put this slide up here, how you can help. Of course, donation, become involved in our Steward Advisory Committee, of which Ms. McBride is. We have a Facebook page. You can become our friend. And after the State of the State address, we really jumped up on the likes or the friending on Facebook for our Facebook page. We continue with our Preserve Stewart campaign, and of course, we have that dedicated website that I mentioned. We do have a few pieces of legislation in the legislative session that we have introduced SB 63, and then we are supporting AB 15. SB 63 is a piece of legislation that came out of our office, and it would create a gift fund for the Stewart Indian School and to designate the Nevada Indian Commission as the coordinating agency for the activities and use out at the Stewart facility. And as far as the coordinating agency, you know, there are many stakeholders out at Stewart. It's a state-owned facility, so there's the State Historic Preservation Office, state lands, state buildings and grounds, Public Works Division, and the Nevada Indian Commission. And so we see, our office is out at Stewart, so we see activities going on and upgrades, and there really hasn't been a coordinated effort at Stewart. And so what we'd like to see is that coordinated effort. And we don't want to step on anybody's toes or take away their authority or anything like that. We just want to bring all the parties together to discuss and to be more efficient with our time and with our resources. And so that's what SB 63 is about, and we do have it's now passed through the Senate. It's over on the Assembly side, and we'll be introducing to the Assembly this Thursday at 8:30 a.m. in room 4100. AB 15 comes out of the Department of Conservation Natural Resources, and that piece of legislation would create a separate fund. They have a couple of parcels of land up at Clear Creek that is on their list that they're not going to be using, they don't have a use for. So when they decide to sell those parcels, what they'd like to do, and what we'd like them to do as well, is to create an account where those proceeds would be put into the account for the preservation and maintenance of the Stewart Indian School. So that is that piece of legislation that has passed through the Assembly. That is now in the Senate, and they had some questions, and so we answered those, and we're waiting to hear back on when the work session is. So I think that is about it. One last thing I wanted to mention, since we're talking tourism, is this brochure that you have here is the Nevada's Indian Territory brochure. This is a tourism-focused marketing piece, and I'm also the chairwoman of Nevada's Indian Territory, which is a marketing arm of the Nevada Commission on Tourism, or I think it's now the Nevada Division of Tourism. So we created this. We found when we did the exhibit up at the airport, we didn't have any photos. They were very hard to find, and so we went after a grant and received it, and were able to hire a photographer to take photos of Indian country in northern Nevada, and now we have 18,000 photos. We also just received another grant, and we're going to be taking photos of now southern Nevada, southern Indian country. So we don't have a lot of attractions yet, but we do have our culture, we do have our people, we do have our festivals and powwows that we want to share. And I will just let you know that there are other tribes that are very interested in entering the tourism industry that we're working with. So there's more to come. So if I could answer any questions, I'd be happy to.
Sherry, do you have, or will you have, an online store or a directory that directs you to the Native American artists and what they do?
We actually do. If you go onto the Nevada Indian Territory website, we do have a page there of Native artists in the state. We don't have plans at this time to have an online store. But what we do have are the pages for each of the artists, the type of medium that they do, and their contact information. So if you wanted to, say, purchase a basket, then you can contact the basket maker that's on the website. You're welcome.
Sherry, I have a question. When we first came here, we went to the Indian Museum out there every chance we could get. And we took all our friends, everybody we knew there, and then it disappeared. And I'm hoping that all the wonderful stuff that was in there somehow has been preserved and kept. And it was a store, and you could buy all kinds of things. It was a wonderful, wonderful museum, and I thank you for the presentation, because I know the Washos very well, did a paper on them, and I really admire and thank the Indians for what they've given to our country.
Well, thank you. That museum that you mentioned closed in 2001.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's been closed for quite some time, and I think that we really, really need to bring this back. We've been trying to raise a lot of awareness about the Stewart Indian School, and we do have quite a few tours of students coming out, and most of them are coming from Southern Nevada, and so I would really like to see more of our local schools be able to come, and I know there's limited funding for field trips, and they have to choose certain places, but I really want to look for a grant or some type of funding that would allow us to be able to help our schools get their children out to Stewart, because I think it's just a really important piece of our shared history to bring awareness, to show our young people, and so they know. You know, many times we just drive by that beautiful school and think, oh, those are cool buildings, you know, but nobody really knows about that piece of our history.
I just wanted to say, I've had a chance to go on the little walking tour with the cell phone.
Oh, good.
And it's impressive to hear those stories, and to from in the first person from the people that were there.
Right.
And I really just, good luck on
Thank you.
it, especially since some of those buildings are so old, and we're in danger of losing them forever if we can't keep them preserved. So.
Right. Right.
Any other comments?
I'd just like to echo Commissioner Cook's comments and thank you for your passion. Creating cultural centers and museums is no small nor easy task. It's process-driven, and just because it's old doesn't mean it'll be sustainable as a museum. But here's a story that hasn't been told in American history, or by and large has not been told. And this really positions Northern Nevada and Carson City uniquely when we pull this off. And I don't say if, but when.
When.
You've got the strong support of the governor, I think a population that appreciates this story and wants to see it done. So my hat's off to you every day for what you do, and my office continues to stand ready to assist any way we can.
Thank you, Peter. That means a lot, and you've been extremely helpful as well in the process. I, by no means am an expert on, museums or cultural centers, and so I look to other experts for assistance. But yes, there definitely is a passion there, and I love the facility out there, and I think that if we can do this and bring back the vibrancy to that beautiful campus, and to really give it the respect that it deserves, then I think that we've done a good job. So.
I want to thank you for your excellent presentation, and see if we have any questions or comments from the public. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I'd like to follow up with a final thought, and that is, I went to Alcatraz yesterday to see the Chinese artist Ai Weiwei's show, and he did an installation of Hopi chants in the mental isolation area. and juxtapositioned it with Tibetan chants. And the reason he chose the Hopi chant specifically was because Hopi fathers were some of the first internees at Alcatraz. I did not know that, but they were dragged off to Alcatraz because they refused to send their children to boarding school. And so they were deemed insane and brought to Alcatraz. So thank you.
Okay, our next item is 3E, and it's a presentation on the Capital City Arts Initiative's latest ventures. Sharon.
Okay, well, what they don't have. I don't think they have the essay or the Sen Arts or the Arts Council thing at the back.
I think the only one they don't have is this.
Okay, all right.
I'll double check.
Okay, all right. Thank you, thank you. Madam Commissioner and Commissioners, thank you very, very much. I'm Sharon Ross with Capital City Arts Initiative. And following Sherry's presentation, I'm breathless following her presentation. I want to start with what I'd written for my closing sentence, which was, presenting the arts and culture helps foster imagination, creativity, and expanded worldview that adds to a fuller education and a richer life for individuals and for the local community. So, okay. We were invited by Nick Morano and the city staff to turn this room into a gallery, and we're thrilled to present the first exhibition. The artist is Ron Artaud. We've titled the exhibition Tuscarora. He's a plein air painter, lives in Tuscarora, Nevada, and everything was painted outside, which is plein air, including the snow scenes, which I find particularly compelling. If you notice in the snow scenes, there's very little white. He finds a ton of color in the snow. Ron says in his statement, ultimately he wants to express a feeling of place, and I think that's something that Carson City is very interested in doing. So I thought it was very appropriate to start this exhibition venue with Ron's work. So the show will be up through June 30th. Everything's for sale. We do think one red dot is up. We do think that one piece is sold. CCI provides honorarium for all the artists we work with. The other exhibition that we have up is the courthouse exhibition. And you're all receiving a copy of the essay that was written by Mary Webb for Nolan Priest's photography. The show will be up through May 28th at the Carson City Courthouse. If you have not had a chance to go see it, love to have you go. We're pretty excited about the exhibition. Nolan Priest, the artist from Reno, wanted larger title cards, so each piece has a couple of sentences describing it, and from what we've heard from courthouse staff, a lot of people are reading, so that's wonderful. Nolan's going to be doing a talk at Carson High School about his work on Wednesday, tomorrow morning, and we're delighted that this is a renewal of CCI's relationship with Carson High. It's been on hiatus for far too long. Our summer show that's coming up is called Industrial Art. It's going to open on June 12th, Friday night, June 12th, so please come. We're going to feature locally high-end design and manufactured items from this area. We're working with Weinberg Machining out in Mound House and Silver State Stainless. Both of them produce amazing work. Silver State Stainless produces the most incredible steel wine and beer brew tanks. They're just gorgeous. So they're making a small one because the courthouse doesn't have a big freight elevator. So they're bringing a little one, which I wanted a really big one. But anyway, they're pretty terrific. So I hope you can save the date and come. We do have one annual exhibition that's out of town. We do an annual residency exhibition with St. Mary's Art Center up in Virginia City. And pardon me, this year's artist is Emily Silver, who's an expat Nevadan living in Ferndale, California. She's from Gardnerville. And completely in love with the desert. She's a watercolor artist. She'll be there for 2 weeks, last 2 weeks of June in residence, producing art, and then the exhibition will be up for 2 months, or July through August. Sean Griffin, who's a poet in Virginia City, is writing the exhibition essay for her show. It's probably the openings of the last weekend of July. I'll make sure you all have it on your flyer when you get them. Our Brick Art 5 exhibition continues at the Brick, although the Brick's getting a new name. The show has changed a little bit because they've changed some of the rooms around, but the majority of the art pieces are still there. On your flyer, the blue small flyer for Nevada Neighbors, 2 weeks from tonight, we're bringing Joanne Northrup from the Nevada Museum of Art to do a talk about her work as a contemporary initiatives curator for the museum. She's already given her talk at Dayton High and Sierra Nevada College. She'll be at Douglas High on March 30th. And it's a treat to come hear her talk. And she's Nevada Neighbors speaker number 50, which is pretty cool. We're pretty excited about that. So our artist and education activities continue with Sierra Nevada College and the high schools I've mentioned, plus Silver Stage High School out in Silver Springs. This winter, we learned that CCI was awarded 2 major grants that we're still dancing about. We received $50,000 from the Andy Warhol Foundation from the Visual Arts. It's a 2-year grant. It's for program and a small portion for administration. So it's $25,000 for this year and $25,000 for next year. It does not cover the entire budget. It's only about a third of our budget, so we're continuing fundraising. But we're thrilled with the grant. And then we received a $10,000 grant from the National Endowment for the Arts for our fall exhibition, which is opening at the courthouse with Katie Holland Lewis from Reno, titled Strata. So that grant was an all-or-nothing grant. So there were several organizations in Nevada that received them. So they're listed in this. This is the Nevada Arts Council newsletter. Comes out quarterly. If you don't receive it, you should probably call the Arts Council and ask them to add you to the mailing list. It's the arts, pardon me, the arts newsletter for our industry. For marketing, we launched on December 1st with our wonderful mayor. We launched a marketing campaign called Step Up. You're all invited to participate. Here's our sign. You get to hold the sign, and you get to step up and support the arts in Carson City and support the Capital City Arts Initiative. And we post them on Facebook. Karen's participated. Everybody's invited. I brought the camera. We took Karen's picture at the restaurant. Today's post was Richard Shark from Silver State Stainless. So love to have you. They're very informal. It's fun. So let me know. I'd love to have you step up and support that. For your calendars, Nevada Humanities is having its annual Humanities Awards at the Governor's Mansion on Thursday, March 26th. It's free, but you do need to RSVP. I have the number. If you wanted, it's 784-6587. Sydney Teskey, also from Tuscarora, did the award item that they're giving out. So it's be a good thing for Carson City to have representation at. And all our area nonprofits are still fundraising, and almost all of us have memberships available, and everybody welcomes your participation and memberships. So thank you very much for your time. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Sharon. I can see why you needed a few extra minutes.
I tried to go fast. The only other thing I'd add is please like CCA on Facebook. We're keeping it going all. Thank you.
Madam
And
Chairperson? I'm sorry.
I just wanted to say I'm so glad to see the art in this room. I think it's a great first step for getting more public art. So
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Cook took my thunder.
Are there any comments from the public? Okay, move on to 3F is a presentation about the successful International Film Weekend.
Thank you for having us here today. We're only too happy to report on, and we have most everyone in the team. Our one team member not here is Liz Skinner, who put together the statistics for us on our surveys. Congratulations to CCAI for their wonderful work and grants and how they have grown all throughout the years since their inception. You know, the National Endowment for the Arts does not use the theme art works for nothing. It's been proven that's why our national art organization uses that. So I don't think we have to debate that anymore. That art events bring people in and add to the economies of cities and states and nations. So I'd like to, just as foundational information, enlist the help of William Morris, the great English artist, because as the library and we, the team working under the library's auspices, believe, a great way to enjoy, learn, and build community is through film art. William Morris says, "I do not want art for a few any more than education for a few or freedom for a few." William Morris. The library was able to get 2 grants, one from the Nevada Arts Council and one from the Nevada Humanities, to help us put on this year's art film festival. And we have been asked many times, well, what do you seek in a film to choose it for the festival? The selection criteria for both the independent and the criteria that we use for choosing films are 3 main ones. The first, we want the film to show global awareness and or appreciation for cultural diversity. The second is we want the film to show understanding of social issues facing all of humanity. And the third is a significant degree of film craft. So that's how we choose the films. In our surveys this year, and we did take surveys last year as well, our total attendance for all the events, as tallied in your statistical sheets, I believe you have copies of those, was 698, and I'm going to round it up to approximately 700 people in the community we reached. overwhelmingly positive results. There were some comments that we will take into consideration and put into next year's planning. But with our feedback from our crowds, the attendees, positive results, we were happy to put it together, working with the library, WNC, and the community center. So we love the idea that we are a coalition of community entities. The next person, Lynn Parrish, I'll introduce her, is one of our film team, and she will speak to another aspect. Thank you.
Hi. I don't know if it was serendipitous or not, but sitting here and just listening to the other presentations, I was really struck by Be Our Guest, because that's what the film community, the International Film Festival is about. Be our guest, and you can come free. I mean, I don't know too many events in Carson City or anywhere where you can come. In this case, we had events in the afternoon on Thursday. We had evening events on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. We had food. It was free. And so Be Our Guest, come. And then we had Toby speak. So we just had a presentation about this Native American who actually came and spoke. A 100-year-old Native American spoke to this filmmaker's pipe. He was a pipe maker, a peacemaker, basically. And I think what I took from the festival over the last couple years is the enthusiasm, the energy it produces. And just now, we just witnessed something that was pretty remarkable. I thought it was. Wow. We just heard a couple speakers, and it all ties together. And that's the humanity of it all. We're one big circle or a hoop. And all these people have different hoops and different circles, but we're all connected. And we're connected in such a wide variety of ways. And we share this humanity. And filmmaking, storytelling, it's at its best with filmmaking. You get the visual effects, the words. You can just embrace it all. And it's just pretty wonderful. So I think this getting together of various people, and I mean, we had so many Native Americans that came to the festival. It was wonderful. So I just think that what we've developed is pretty great, and it'll continue to just enrich our futures.
Excuse me, can I get your name again one more time for
Lynn Parrish.
Lynn Parrish.
Good evening. I'm Ursula Carlson, also part of the film team, and the one together with Dr. Liz Skinner, who focused on the discussion portion of the film weekend. So, you know, watching a film is one thing, but we felt that a unique aspect for our film weekend would be to include a discussion afterwards for anyone who would be interested in that kind of discussion. So there was no arm twisting, but certainly we spoke about the discussion before the film began and reminded people after each film ended. And the reason for the discussion, of course, is that the film usually always generates a lot of questions. In some respects, there are questions that you ask your partner with whom you went to see the film, what did you think about this, or what did you think this meant? And maybe both of you, well, we don't really know. We'd like to hear more opinions. And so the discussion, the informal actually, group discussion was held in a separate room here in the community center, so that we had debated whether to have it in the big auditorium, and then thought, no, who's going to want to raise a hand and say anything, in that huge place and maybe with other people listening, or we thought, no, a more informal, closer room would be better. So it also gave everyone, I think, an opportunity, and we plan to do this again, to express their emotions, their feelings, to compare how one felt with how others felt, as well as to look at the film as art, so that, we directed questions gradually working from feelings to observations to finally kind of an analysis of what themes were evident, what kind of symbols people noticed, what the implications of all of this was for each individual film, as well as for the culture itself that the film represented and the people of that culture, the nations. So people enjoyed that, and sometimes, depending on the film, people had favorites. They were happy. Some people who came each night, at the third night, were interested in discussing which was their favorite and why. And all of this just generated a sense of kind of family and closeness and oneness, and it was, we thought, really excellent, and we hope to do it again. Thank you.
I'm Valerie Anderson. I'm a librarian at Western Nevada College, so I coordinated the independent film part of the festival. And I was really excited when we were approached about being a partner in this, because in 2009, we had participated and received a grant to have a global film series. We showed 10 international films over 10 weekends, and we got about 80 people at each time at those events, 60 actually we go 60 to 100 or something. And so when I was approached by this wonderful team of women that said, we're thinking about doing that, and I thought, wow, we knew it was a popular and a very, there's a lot of big interest in this community in having a selection of films, something out of the ordinary, something with a different perspective. So we did that. And the other advantage of having the independent films at the college was that we don't have to pay public performance fees, because these are independent films. And of course, having students there, we wanted to encourage student participation. Unfortunately, it was hard getting the word out at first, and I think now that we had so many people, we will be more successful with that. But we were able to show a number of the Brewery Arts Center short film competition winners, which was really fun. But like we said, we did have a number of films. They were Thursday and Friday afternoon, and at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you wonder how many people will really show. But we did. We had great participation, about 80 each day. And we also had really a wide variety from two women starting a bakery in Homer, Alaska was one film done by one of the instructors at the university who had wonderful film. And then the pipe makers of the Great Basin, as Lynn talked about, and what an honor. It was almost a spiritual experience. This film was one that was done for the museum, but it's not out yet. And so the guy was in the process of doing a Paiute Indian, and it was all about these two pipe makers. And one was Hillman Toby, and so he came and he talked, and someone sang a song of a kind of a spiritual invocation. Like all the Native Americans stood. It was like the national anthem, and it was so moving. And then Friday was really fun. We had Mary Works from the Arts Council, who's here. And we had a big group about the Red Dog Saloon in Virginia City and what a scene it was, and the counterculture and the whole beginning, and what an important part it played. So all of that was just really wonderful. So at our college, we also did some information marketing to help with the posters and that type of thing, press releases, and we had our media support that helped us to figure out that, with the good sound quality. So, we definitely are planning on participating next year, and we look forward to it, and, could use any help in publicizing the independent part of we did have one guy, like the day before it started, oh, I got this film about Dayton, Nevada, I want you guys to see it. I'm going, it's just a little late now, but, I took his name for next year, so we're really looking forward to that. And I do have a copy of the program that has the description of the independent films as well as the international films and all of our sponsors. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm Dixie Jennings-Teets, and I wear different hats, and today my hat is one of the film team. We were pretty much anonymous. People kept trying to, instead of answering questions about the film, say, well, who are these 5 women? But, we're the film team. But my role today is I just want to do 2 thank yous. One is to the important people, right? So we want to thank our mayor for issuing a proclamation that February 5th, 6th, and 7th was the International Film Weekend in Carson City. And I suppose in all that some of you were there as well. So we just want to give thanks to him and to the Board of Supervisors for honoring that. But the other people I want to give thanks to, I have access to a number of volunteers, and these are not well-known people necessarily in our community. But if you came to the film festival, you may have seen them in their black pants and white shirts. I mean, they were our ushers, or they were people that put decor up on our walls for the 3 films in the evening that were just incredible. Or you might have seen them in other ways, loading things back into the cars when things were done. I hope that you all had a chance to come. It was truly a great event, and we see it as part of Carson City's future. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. Andrea Moore, Carson City Library. This evening I'll be presenting, you all will get the first view of my report to the library's Board of Trustees, which will be presented to them on March 26th. So I'll hand this off to Vern at the end of my presentation. But essentially what we wanted to do was tie in how the library's strategic plan, Level Up 2014 to 2019, the strategic goals from our library strategic plan tied right into the entire meaning of this film fest. We were able to meet strategic goal number 1, 2, and 3, which inspired learning, facilitated connection, and created opportunity. And by doing so, in terms of inspire learning, the objective number 5 was to collaborate with public, private, and nonprofit partners to expand learning opportunities and cultural experiences. Well, as stated in our submission for our grants to be considered, we wrote that film art combines high-tech media with content and composition aspects of the arts. Joining emotional and physical responses provides complexity, which mirrors human experience in a virtual learning opportunity. Learning visually is the most memorable modality for intake into the memory of the majority of human beings. In our goal number 2, to facilitate connection, we pointed out to our infrastructure, which is objective number 5, provide the community with materials for local and civic engagement. With that connection with other cultures and people throughout the visual tableau of film is accessible without traveling. The festival offers a forum for discussion with fellow community members, and it fostered conversation about the purposes and intentions of the filmmaker. And finally, by creating opportunity through programming, objective number 1, develop and promote collaborative programs and workshops with the business community. Well, by conversing with others in the local community through a shared visual experience, we offered an opportunity to connect through the dialogue. So with that, just if you have any questions about the library's strategic plan, by all means log on to carsoncitylibrary.org and you'll have access to that. I did want to state this was a collaborative effort with the Film Festival Committee, Western Nevada College, and the Carson City Community Center, of which we are very grateful. We do intend to ask our Library Board of Trustees if they will approve our involvement again in 2016. With approval, we will be able to confirm our reservation dates for February of 2016. So we continue to see this as a 3-day event. The library, as mentioned, did receive 2 grants totaling $1,933. Our grants were funded by the Nevada Arts Council as a jackpot grant and another by the Nevada Humanities. Including these grants and the funding from my department, the library department, the cost of the film festival totaled just over $2,700. However, in-kind funding amounts equaled more than $10,000. This amount includes staff hours, venue rental fees, and equipment. In addition, the original 5 ladies that became the hard-working committee brought an enormous value to this project. Their professional backgrounds facilitated scholarly after-film discussions that added an additional dimension to this project. If you ever need some help, they're the ones to go to. This festival provided a shared community opportunity. As stated in our grant, these connections can lead to greater understanding of the broader human condition. It is in the gathering together of diverse people, ages, genders, and worldviews that promotes opportunity for dialogue, which in the large scheme supports our democratic society. Thank you. And I think at this point, if there are any questions, we're happy to entertain them. Thank you.
Thank you, team. That was wonderful. I was out of town this year, but last year I went to all 3 and all the discussions, and I thought it was excellent, and I'm glad it was successfully moved over to the community center to accommodate a bigger crowd, and next year will be fabulous. Are there any comments from the public? Okay, there's no action on that one. Okay. We move to item G. Yes, thank you. And this one is on the Carson City Arts Assessment, to use it and the Creative Capital Report to pursue a cultural master plan for Carson City. And a lot of people did research on those 2 original documents and whether they were ever approved by the Board of Supervisors. And I think just within the last week, we learned that that it had actually somehow been incorporated.
Well, that's going to be the part of the discussion this evening. I think it's going to be a little bit of a stretch to say it's an official city document, but it's a community document. So I don't know how you want to make that distinction or not, but let Roger go ahead and go through this.
There was one other comment I wanted to make, that I know the city is doing a strategic plan right now, and that at the end of the month there will be some public presentations and chance to look at it. So it's a really opportune time for us to be looking at the cultural component of that. Okay, Roger?
Okay, I'm going to kick this one off. I want to tell everybody that and remind everybody how Vern Cron works. And Vern puts together the agenda and asks me to take a look at it to approve it. And then I find out a day later that he assigns probably the most difficult item on the agenda to me. So. And he even writes a staff report too. So, but anyhow, I hope you have some patience, because I think we need to take some time on this item. And I know it's kind of getting late. It's after 7 o'clock. But I think this is a very important item. And if Vern and I were looking at the agenda today, and every item that we've had prior to this item really leads right to what we're talking about tonight, and that's a community arts master plan. And I hope you all had an opportunity to look at the assessment that was provided, the arts assessment and the creative capital plan. And I think if you really think about it, everything they talked about today is somehow referred to or mentioned in the plans that were provided. So that was really a pretty, what was the word earlier, serendipitous, and unplanned happenstance. And we have some ladies in the back corner here on the right that I know are probably going to want to make some comments about this issue too. So I kind of invite you to come up closer, and that way, when you want to talk, you don't have to walk so far up to the podium. That's up to you, but I think it'd be. But I know that you're going to have some comments. I want to kind of go back in history a little bit. What I want to do is I want to kind of cover, to a certain degree, summarize the report that Vern put together, talk a little bit about the history of how we got to where we are, and then maybe kind of finish up summarizing the two plans that are included in your packet. And Vern writes, on Tuesday, December 16, 2014, the Cultural Commission made a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors that the Commission actively pursue the development of a culture master plan for Carson City, and that this commission would take the lead role in doing so and developing it and ultimately helping the Board of Supervisors look at ways of funding it and implementing the program. That could include, possibly applying for and hopefully receiving some grants from the Nevada Arts Council to help offset the cost of the plan. Well, how did we come about that decision? If you remember, and Barbara's new to the board, so she wasn't included in some of these discussions, and I think, Daniel, you were probably on the board when we talked about the 1% for arts, the capital projects. We brought that ordinance to the Board of Supervisors, whereby 1% of a capital project would be earmarked for the arts, for public arts for that project. We brought that to the Board of Supervisors. I think they were interested in the project, but they felt like maybe it needed more work. So they basically turned it down that day, but they asked the commission to go back and take another look at it and come up with some other ideas. Well, during that time, there were some other things going on in the city where the 1.8 sales tax projects were coming up, and the board and the mayor kind of felt at the time that maybe we shouldn't be pursuing this item right at this time. Let's wait till the dust settles on some of these other items. Probably a wise decision. And so we were getting ready to bring this back, and we were having a couple little meetings talking about how we're going to fund. How would we fund this? Are there other options of funding coming up with an ordinance that would fund public art? And it struck us, I think, a little bit, listening to Sharon talk about some of the success that she's had in receiving grants, that really, in order to really become successful in getting grants, especially from the National Endowment of Arts, you have to have a master plan. One of the questions they'll ask you is, does this conform to your master plan? It's kind of hard to check that box yes if you don't have a master plan. And at that time, we didn't think we had a master plan. And so our focus changed from going after funding and via an ordinance to looking at developing a master plan. And then the idea would be that maybe the funding mechanism, the ordinance, would be informed by that plan, would be an outgrowth of that plan. So that's a strategy we took, and we were kind of going down that path. And then Mary Works Covington came out of the blue and waving two documents saying, hey, guess what? You guys have a plan. And we go, we do? And she said, yeah, I found it. And she was referring to the Creative Capital Plan, which is the Carson City Community Arts Plan that was developed in 2002. And Barbara, I think you were part of that process when you were with the Brewery Arts Center. And prior to that, a year before that, there was a arts assessment plan that basically the city received funding, or the redevelopment authority provided a cash match and funding. The Brewery Arts Center took the lead and went out and applied for the grant. I think it was through the NEA, National Endowment of Arts, and received the funding. The city kind of went on a nationwide search to find a consultant, and they found, I have to refer to the...
Wright Consulting.
There we go, Wright Consulting. And Mary, or not, was it Mary Wright? Virginia Wright, thank you. Virginia Wright went to work and started developing this plan. It started out with interviewing stakeholders, special interest groups, and coming up with this assessment of where Carson City was at that time in 2001 in terms of being an art community. And that was all really, prior to that, even inspired by a couple earlier documents. One was in 1996. It was a Capital City Focus, a strategic plan at that time adopted and approved by the Board of Supervisors that mentioned the need for a comprehensive community art master plan. And then that formed the Capital Arts Coalition in 1998. And so, 5 years or 4 years later, in 2001, that's recreation math, excuse me, the city went ahead and conducted this assessment on the arts. And I think it's kind of interesting if we look at that assessment, and I'm just not going to go through the whole thing, but in the summary that they talk about the 6 observations that Wright Consulting came up with. Number one was, their observation was that the community was in need of another performing arts theater that would seat around 350 people. As you know, the theater here in the community center seats just under 800. And then we have the performance hall over at the Brewery Arts Center, I think seats maybe 200.
250, 300 if they're way up.
And then we have the Black Box Theater in the Brewery Arts Center that probably seats 100, 110, somewhere in that nature. And they felt like there was a real need for a theater that would really host a little bit smaller presentations or performances than you would have here, but would be larger than what the Brewery Arts Center could host. And they felt like 350 was probably about the ideal size. The other observation was that the city really needed a nonprofit curated gallery or museum, art museum in the community.
We like that.
Barbara says we like that. They also observed that there is a need for more marketing for the nonprofits and people who are, organizations that are involved in the cultural and arts. And they observed that the Brewery Arts Center serves as a local art agency for the community, and I think that's still true today as well. They observed that there needs to be more partnerships and more collaborations between the disparate art groups in the community, and that there probably ought to be a coordinator assigned that would work in terms of trying to coordinate the efforts of all these individuals. Well, now we don't really have a coordinator, but we do have the Carson City Arts Coalition that meets on a regular basis and, talks about, what's going on in the art and cultural world in Carson City. And they recognize the fact that Carson City could become a cultural tourist destination, that we really have pretty much all the tools that we need. It's just bringing it all together and making it cohesive and working collaboratively. So I thought those were important. Well, then from that, the next step was to create the creative capital plan. And again, I hope all of you had an opportunity to go through that. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the summary of the findings in that plan. And as I went through it, I made little check marks, and I was showing Karen this earlier today of actually items that were included in this plan that either have been completed or at least been partially completed, to some degree.
Roger, for just help for the newbies, what page are you on?
Okay, I am on, if you look at the creative capital plan, I am on page 6. And it's just right at the very beginning. It's a summary of recommendations. Okay, so under performing arts, A is continued collaborative efforts among the Brewery Arts Center, the city, and the college to understand and fulfill Carson City's cultural facility needs. I think that is happening to a certain degree. I don't think it's formalized necessarily, but I think there is, as you know, the Western Nevada Theater Group puts on their presentations here. There is interaction between the city of Carson City and the Brewery Arts Center. And I think it's informal, but it is happening to a certain degree. B was renovate St. Teresa's for immediate use as a recital and concert hall, and stated the feasibility of additional renovations for larger theatrical productions. Well, St. Teresa's, we know, has been renovated, as a performance hall. Isn't that right, Barbara? You're looking kind of suspicious at me.
It is.
Okay.
It needs help.
Oh, it needs help. Okay. Item C is upgrade the Brewery Arts Center's Donald W. Reynolds Black Box Theater to improve seating, support space, and technical capacity.
It's had help.
It's had help. It probably still needs some more help.
A lot.
But a lot of the performances that are going on at the Brewery Arts Center now have been moved to the Black Box stage.
It's now the Helene Jesse.
Well, it's not Helene, it's Helene's mother.
Her mother.
Yeah, what was Helene's?
May.
There we go.
Jesse.
Yep. Although Helene would probably take the notoriety. Item D is build a theater at Western Nevada Community College. Well, we know that hasn't been done yet, and probably the prospects of that happening anytime soon is probably not good. They're trying to save their athletic teams right now and probably trying to save the college. But, that could still happen in the future, and it's probably still a viable goal. Item E is renovate and enlarge the Carson City Community Center Theater. That has not been completed. There are improvements that need to be done outside of just enlarging it.
And Roger, we did award some funding with the 8% sales tax to do some improvements, so.
That's a good point. Yep. The 1/8 cent sales tax, the list of projects includes improvements to the community center. And there's earmarked right now about $500,000. There's also in quality of life funds about another $270,000 or $250,000 that can be used for that purpose too. We have not gone forward with that because we want to find out what's going to happen with the 1/8 cent sales tax money. Make sure we're doing everything in kind of a logical sequence.
Did that include an upper level?
No, that won't include an upper balcony. And, speaking of that, I think that, we would want to make sure that, this document in 2002 now is, use my recreational math, is about 13 years old. And we want to make sure that that is still a viable alternative because, as you know, building codes have changed over the years. Even things like ADA requirements have changed, and we want to make sure that the building actually could logistically be renovated so that it would have a balcony or, enlarged.
Roger, what about the seating? A few years ago, there were samples of seats out in the lobby.
Yeah, you know how long ago that was? That was when I first came here, almost 11 years ago. And so we have been trying to put away money, ever since that time, to replace the seats in that theater. And that's part of that $250,000, $270,000 that I mentioned earlier that we have. We want to make sure that, we've got other improvements in the theater, such as acoustical improvements we have to make, and lighting and that type of thing. We don't want to take all the seats out, put the seats back in, and then have to go back and take the new seats out to do, some other type of improvements. So that's why we're kind of holding off on that at this point. Let's see, the other item is, item F was transform the Carson City Community Center into the Carson City Cultural Center. That really hasn't been completed. Item G is to encourage, support private theaters, clubs, and cafes to work with local musicians to develop audiences for local music. And again, I think that's probably happened. I mean, Adele's has concerts and have, Comma Coffee has that. We used to have Plan B down here. Sassafras has moved to the north end of town, and
They're having music at least twice a week now.
Yep, they're having music, so the Poorhouse.
It's a Good Life also does music.
Yep, okay, and I can tell you that when I came here about 11 years ago, there was maybe one or two places that really did, had live music, so. Glen Eagles has had for quite a while. Under the category of visual arts, item A is establish one or more educational professional art galleries in Carson City. I think, you know, we have at the Public Safety Complex, the Cultural Arts Initiative has used that upper second floor as an art gallery, and that's been, you know, real successful.
Since 2004.
Since 2004. So, you know, that's kind of an outgrowth of this plan as well. Attract art galleries to downtown Carson City that deal in high-quality work produced by nationally and regionally recognized artists. Well, we know Artsy Fartsy is in town, and I think if I'm not wrong, I think all the artists are regional artists, if not Nevadans. Item C is establish an art in public places program in Carson City public buildings and retail businesses. Well, that one really hasn't been completed. However, I think we've touched on it.
And I think you need to add the corridors to that too, because that's part of what we're talking about doing.
And that's part of what we're talking about doing, again, going back to the 1/8 cent sales tax projects. And then we have the art associated with the freeway project, you know, History in Motion, that art that's involved in that. And while it hasn't been a program, so to speak, I think there has been a movement to increasing public art in Carson City. And we also have murals painted around town, particularly in some of our parks, and some of our buildings in our parks, we have murals. So, you know, I think we're heading in that direction, although it's not a formalized program. The other category is development and support. A is establish an arts commission and/or a nonprofit local arts agency that works to strengthen all art organizations for the benefit of Carson City. Well, here you are, right here. You know, the city established the cultural commission. Item B, dedicate staff to the development of arts and culture. We haven't really gone that far yet. We have Vern as a liaison, but he's not really a staff that's dedicated to art. His is just one of the many hats that he wears for the city and our department. Item C is clarify the role of the Brewery Arts Center as a current local arts agency. And I'm not sure what else needs to be clarified in that, but I know the Brewery Arts Center has kind of gone through some, you know, ups and downs and hills and valleys, and I think right now they're kind of coming back up. And I see them, and I think probably most people see them as probably being, again, the local arts agency. I think they need to be strengthened. I think they need some help to really fulfill that role, but I think there's an upswing in their activities.
The most they need is funding.
Funding.
And a really good ED.
Okay, executive director, is that what you're referring to? ED? Okay. Item D is ensure funding for the Brewery Arts Center as central to the development. Did I just read that one? Nope, that's the next one. Ensure funding for the Brewery Arts Center as central to the development of arts and culture in the city, and that's exactly what Barbara is referring to. Probably their most critical need is stable and sustaining funding. So the next category is leadership and training. Reorganize the Capital Arts Coalition to establish a local arts agency to help realize the goals in this plan. I don't think that has probably been accomplished or maybe attempted at this time. You can correct me if I'm wrong on any of these, by the way.
We have the coalition, but we haven't taken on that role.
Yeah, okay. Train volunteers and paid staff in nonprofit management with a focus on fundraising, board development, volunteer management, and marketing. Yet to be done. Work to achieve ethnic and cultural diversity in all arts and cultural programming and resource development. Well, we had a really nice example of that today. Sherry Rupert gave an outstanding presentation on what is proposed for the Stewart facility. And the last, well, no, it's not the last, I'm sorry. The next category is economic development and urban design. To continue to market downtown Carson City as a cultural and historic district. You know, I think that, again, maybe it's not so formalized, but I think that is happening, you know. I think the Visitors Bureau is helping, you know, to some degree with that. They're their focus is really on attracting visitors, of course, and increased tourism, but they understand that the arts and culture can be a tourist draw to our community. B is work with existing community festivals to increase and improve the quality of the art, and work with regional art festivals to bring them to Carson City. Well, we just had a nice presentation about the film festival. And we have the jazz festival in the summer that Ellie and David are involved in, other people. So these, we are seeing some increases in that area as well. Adopt a public art historic preservation plan and ordinance. We're going to get there on that one. We got a little we stumbled a little bit, but we're going to get there. And then D is revitalize the Stewart Indian School as a culture center again. Sherry Rupert was here explaining that. That's in the governor's recommended budget. That's a good sign. And then the very last category is resource development. Explore the possibility of a local option tax in partnership with other agencies such as historic, preservation, libraries, and tourism. And B is ensure the newly created local arts agency understands that its primary charge is the development of resources for the whole arts community. After again, I've looked through the creative capital plan several times, and even as frequently as this morning, looked at it very thoroughly. And the question comes up, really probably the question that Vern was referring to earlier is, well, what is really the status of this creative capital art plan? Is it an officially adopted plan by the Board of Supervisors? Is it a functioning plan? Is it relevant? Does it need to be updated? The kind of the search on whether it has been adopted has taken some interesting turns, and I met with Joe McCarthy. Joe was involved in this from the very beginning, and Joe kind of hem and hawed a little bit when I asked him. I said, has the Board of Supervisors actually ever adopted it? Because we could not find, searching minutes in that, any place where this plan was brought to the Board of Supervisors for official acceptance and adoption. But what did happen was, and Joe was very forthright in telling me this, is that back in, I think it's 2000, back in June 25th of 2005, the Board of Supervisors adopted a master plan called the Economic Vitality Strategy or Plan, Strategic Plan, excuse me, the Economic Vitality Strategic Plan. And in that plan, they make reference to the Creative Capital Plan. And you have that, a couple pages from that plan in your item, in your agenda item. If you look in your packet on, there's an Exhibit C, which is has a cover page for the Economic Vitality Strategic Plan. The next page under Objective 2.7, which is in the plan, says, recognize that the arts create value in the community by enhancing the quality of life and increasing economic activity. The objective would examine options for providing greater funding to the arts through some form of public-private partnership. The Downtown Redevelopment Project made a major investment in the Brewery Arts Center last year. This facility is a regional draw and is an example of how the arts contribute to the quality of life and the economic vitality of the area. The city needs to consider other investments in arts that can create similar benefits. Okay, so there's a direct reference, but here's an even more direct reference if you're follow me on the packet, the next page. Under Objective 2.7, it says ensure ongoing support for the arts in Carson City. Strategy 2.71, stimulate more community-wide support. Strategy 2.72, implement the Creative Capital Carson City Community Arts Plan within the strategic plan. Now, has it ever been implemented? Probably not officially, but it's referenced in a plan that was approved by the Board of Supervisors. as we pointed out here just a few minutes ago, many of the goals and objectives and recommendations that they gave have been completed, by the community in some form or another. I still wouldn't go as far as to say that this is an adopted plan by the Board of Supervisors, but I think it's a plan that you can use, the community can use, in searching for and applying for grants. I think at least we have that kind of plan now. Is it still relevant today? And that's another question. Is it, or does it provide maybe a foundation to build a plan upon? Or is this plan good enough that we could say, we think this plan should be adopted, but with the following revisions, maybe make recommendations or revisions to the existing plan. That's not unusual. I mean, any master plan is probably good for is probably relevant for anywhere from about 5 to 10 years. After such time, you need to go back and assess it and decide whether it's still relevant. One of the things that Vern and I have talked about is the recession that we went through that really hit us about in 2008 and got progressively worse in 2010, in some ways kind of froze Carson City in time. And I don't think personally, except maybe some demographics have changed. Our demographics may have changed a little bit in terms of we may have a higher percentage population of Hispanics than we had back then. If you look at the plan, I think they mentioned about 14% of our population is Hispanics. I think it's probably closer to 20 now. The community has probably grown a little bit older. On the average age, has probably aged a little bit. But other than that, I don't think the city of Carson City has changed appreciably, during that time since the recession came upon us, except for the fact that I think there has been an increased awareness in the importance of arts and culture in this community, and that many of the recommendations that were stated in this plan, have been completed. So I guess I'm kind of leaving it up at this point as a discussion from you folks of try to get your feeling about what you think of this plan. Do you think it, A, serves as a master plan? Or if it doesn't, can it be the foundation for a master plan? Or if it does serve as a master plan, does it just need to be updated and have revisions made to it? So I'm just kind of interested to see what you folks as a commission, how you feel about it.
I'm the newbie. I think I have a lot of opinions on this one, but I think you all, you were here for all the discussions. I know what I feel. Basically, if you're going to put it out there, put funding with it. Stop just talking about it. You have to fund it. And I would submit to you that here's an idea. Alameda County in California on your voting. Okay, there's a little box. You want to give $1 or however much to the arts. They've made all kinds of money, and it works because it's voluntary. And so there are creative ways that we could be looking at it if we're going to be stopped by we don't have any funds. So I really think this is a wonderful start, and I think we ought to look at what's been in the past. Is it still relevant today? If it isn't, chuck it and start all over and make it cohesive and funded.
Well, I think, Roger, you were saying a plan is good for about 10 years, and this has been more than 10 years, although 5 years was in stagnation, so maybe we have 5 years to go. But I don't think we really were stagnating, because a lot of the things that were implemented happened during that recession in this town. Some really wonderful things in the arts happened in the last 5 years. So I think we should look at the parts of it that have not been implemented yet and use those parts for the basis of something new, not just to continue with this one as the plan.
Let me give you a little bit of an example of what Vern and I have been in the process of working with the Park and Recreation Commission. We have a plan that was developed in 2004, adopted in 2006 by the Board of Supervisors. And we have been going through, it took us about a year almost to go through an evaluation of that plan, an assessment with the Park and Recreation Commission to determine whether, again, the plan is relevant, what has been completed, what hasn't been completed, and the things that haven't been completed, are they still worth completing? You know, that kind of discussion. And really what the Park and Recreation Commission in the final analysis came to, you know, for the most part, this plan is still relevant. And there are still things that it says that needs to be done. And they made a few little tweaks here and there on some of the things, you know, and they're going to provide, Karen, you'll see it, they're going to provide a letter to the board, not really an action item, but just an update letter that's going to go to each of the board members saying, we've reviewed this plan, we think the plan is still relevant. However, here are some places that we think about changing. And so what you said, Ellie, kind of reminds me a little bit of what we did with the Park and Recreation Commission is maybe you're onto something that we should look at the items, the recommendations that haven't been completed and do an analysis and evaluation of each one of those and decide if those are still relevant and you still want to go in those in that direction. You know, we could apply for a grant and we could spend $20,000 to $50,000 on developing a master plan. If we get a grant that offsets some of that cost, that'd be great. But Karen knows this as well as I do. We're looking at another very tight budget year. And I think it would be a hard sell personally to go to the Board of Supervisors to ask for, you know, that kind of money for this purpose. It may be more prudent to work with what we have and you know, report to the Board of Supervisors in that manner maybe. And that's just kind of my opinion I'm throwing out there, but.
Roger, I couldn't agree more, actually. I agree with Ellie. I think we've got a basis here to work from, and altering what needs to be altered. I also mentioned to you, too, Silver State Charter School is left out of this, and it does have a functioning theater. And so that needs to be included as one of the venues that we have to offer. I also strongly feel we've worked really hard on the ordinance issue in terms of funding, and Barbara's absolutely right. It's time to fund this commission such that we're able to do something with it and use it as leverage money so that we can move forward and start funding more public art.
And if I may add to that, I think there are many foundations in this country who favor bricks and mortar. When you start talking about theaters and renovations and so on, that can be approached, who also give to the arts. So I think that there is an opportunity. Has anyone researched the National Foundation? There's one in San Francisco on Stockton Street where you can go in and you can find out anything. It's a college, it's an art, it's schools, it's whatever. And you can get lists of those organizations who will fund the arts and culture, and I think we need to look at that.
Mike Saloga, under Economic Development and through the BRIC, there is a program that identifies all the funding mechanisms. All we have to do is ask.
Sharon. Thank you. Sharon Ross, Capital City Arts. We have two sources for the foundation. I forgot what it's called. The library has that. Carson City Library has it, and the State Library has it. So you can go in and research all the foundations. It's already here in town. You don't have to go to San Francisco. I firmly support accepting this. Don't reinvent the wheel, please. It'd be too much money and too much time, and all the work went into this. There's some things that can be updated, but even if you just take this and tell the Board of Supervisors, we'll update it as we go, but let's go with this. Under public art, all the 3 galleries we run in town already fulfill all of these things. This room, the BRIC, and the courthouse. While I'm at the microphone, sustainability of the arts organizations in town is vital. And I think if this commission can get funding and then produce a grants program, it's vital. I can't think of another word to use.
So please don't reinvent the wheel. I think it'd be unnecessary to start over.
Thank you, Sharon.
Thank
Mary?
Hi, my name is Mary Works Covington. I'm the Community Arts Development Program Coordinator for the Nevada Arts Council. I would like to direct your attention to the facilities, Parks and Rec Facilities Master Plan that Roger is referring to, that they've just spent a bunch of time going over. And if you look on, oh, you don't have page numbers on here. Okay, they don't have that. But in item 6.9.5, it says to utilize the creative capital plan to determine future directions for Carson City's cultural and performing arts. So it's referenced in that plan. It's also referenced in the strategic master plan. And if you look on here and you look at the people who contributed to this, who worked to develop this, and I've also had multiple conversations with Joe McCarthy and Robin Williamson, who was a supervisor at that time. So this plan was a community cultural plan. It was based on an assessment that was community-wide. So it had the buy-in of large portions of this community already, which is a really wonderful grassroots place to start. It wasn't top-down. Somebody didn't decide. The people of this community came together and contributed to this. And a lot of those people are still in this community. David Bugley, Ellie Bugley, Joe McCarthy has also been contributing. I don't know if Karen Alcorn is still here. Mitch Ames was part of this. Stephanie Arigati, Chris Bayer, Karen Chandler, who's gone. The Nevada Arts Council, Suzanne Chandler, who had my position before. So the Arts Council was involved in this process. People in the Preservation Coalition, Bill Cooey from Ash Canyon Poets. I won't go through the whole list, but I will say Maisie Harris-Jesse from Proscenium Players. Some of these names you'll still recognize. People who worked at the Nevada Appeal, Barry Smith was the editor. Ray Maseko was the mayor at that time. He was involved in this. So Rob Joyner, Carson City Economic Development Director. Ronnie Hanneman. So these are all, a lot of these people are still involved in this community, still working hard. And I think that when you look at what's in this plan, and again, it was done with the supervisor, Robin Williamson, was a part of this. So maybe it didn't get adopted particularly as a specific separate ordinance, but it's referenced in all of your plans, it's referenced in your strategic plans. And when you look through this plan, as Roger says, it was really well done. It was really well thought out. There's only a couple of things in here that really never got much attention put to them. But a lot of this has come to pass. And when you sit here tonight and you listen to all the people who made presentations, and it just right down the line, boom, boom, boom. You guys were created. You have this cultural commission now. The Carson City Arts and Culture Coalition is going strong. So a lot of these elements are already in place, and everything has fed into, I believe, this moment. When you look at what, Sherry Rupert is discussing, that's something that was not part of this plan, but needs to be and should be as part of the community cultural plan. So I would say that you have all of the elements in place, and I'm not sure how it works on your end, but if you say we have a cultural master plan that needs to be updated, I don't think you would be wrong. And some of the things, and really, this community should be congratulated in a lot of ways, because a lot of this has come to pass, and a lot of wonderful people have worked on this. And yes, we still have a ways to go, but I think you can see from the presentations tonight that this is a mature community that recognizes the value of the arts and that wants and needs this to happen and is willing to work for it, and hopefully willing to find the funding to put all of this into place. So I think that Carson City does have a cultural master plan. I think it is important that you take the next step and call it what it is and create it in whatever official way needs to happen so that you can then go for bigger funding. And you can demonstrate to the rest of the world that the capital city has stepped up, stands up for the arts, and is mature enough to take on the mantle and run with it. I think that's what I have to say. So, thank you.
I think one of the things that you will definitely updated. We've got a lot of new resources in Carson City. We've had a lot of new people come into the area, and with them, new creative, options. We've got more artists and more musicians and more venues and more active venues. I guess I kind of want to focus very, very closely on page 28 of the Exhibit B of the Creative Capital. And it says that ensure, or under B, under the recommendations, ensure that the newly created local arts agency, whether public or private, understands that its primary charge is the development of resources for the whole arts community. And that's, it is our job to find a way to make this viable, that we need to get, the Board of Supervisors on board with investing in this. And, that's where we're that advocate, for the rest of the city, that, you have to make these tough choices, but we can't be ignored. So I definitely let's make sure that still kind of stays the focus of the commission, that, it is about getting, getting resources for the arts community.
Well, and now is the primary time. If this is incorporated as part of the strategic plan that the city is bringing out to the public, I think this needs to be put out there as part of it, and gather some information about some other funding options or ideas for that people can give feedback on.
So what is the timeline on the strategic plan being finalized?
There are dates that are already put out there. I have to look at my calendar.
I think it's March 26th. Yep. That's 1 week.
Yeah, March 26th will be...
Is the presentation to the public?
Presentation to the public hearing. This is an opportunity for the public to give comment. And that'll be from, if I remember right, from noon to 2 o'clock. And
then on the 30th, from noon to 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
And in the evening, too.
The 26th is at the exhibit hall at Fuji Park.
And the other one's here?
Noon to 2, and then I think 5 to 7, is that correct? Mm-hmm. And then the other one will be here in the Sierra Room on the 30th, and it'll be the same times. Right.
So Karen, are you proposing that we submit the arts plan from 2002 and say, include that in the strategic plan without any more work on it?
No, I think that the modifications are easy enough to do as far as that goes. There's not that much, it's not that difficult.
Okay.
We've we've progressed. A letter to the extent that you have done for Parks and Rec is a similar thing that can be included as part of our update of what we see needs to happen. And we've also worked on, funding mechanisms, but what other suggestions might there be out there for that?
Well, maybe we should kind of take things one at a time, and if the commission is moving towards they would like to have a letter from the commission, and we can craft that for you, that says something to the effect, and if you want to add to or correct me on what I'm going to say here, that's fine, that it is the commission's opinion that the Creative Capital Plan serves as a arts and cultural community master plan and should be considered as such, with the goal that the commission is going to address each recommendation and analyze and maybe assess each recommendation, for its relevancy or whatever. I mean, that may not be the best term, and have that included as part of the strategic plan. We could do that. We have to do that in a hurry, and there's not going to be an opportunity for it to go to the board before these meetings in the strategic for the strategic plan.
Doesn't seem that there's a need to, considering the
not have
history of this.
This
Yes.
is the foundation, and everything we've talking about, even doing now, has already been identified. It just hasn't been done.
Not everything.
Some of it
Well,
has, but
most of it.
I like the way Mary worded it. And if you could maybe recapture some of.
You're always trying to put me to work, Roger.
It could go in the letter.
I will try. I have a question. Is the Parks and Rec, is it a separate master plan, or is it part of the overall strategic plan?
I know we've been kind of throwing around different terms of master plans tonight. Maybe I can back up a little bit. The city has what's called a comprehensive master plan, and within that comprehensive master plan, there are elements. So there's a Parks and Recreation element to the master plan, and there's a housing element to the master plan, and there's an open space element to the master plan. And when you talk about those kind of things, they have very significant and defined meanings in what they mean legally. Okay, what we're talking about is a community plan, not an element to the master plan of Carson City. So again, I know, Mary, you and I have had discussions about this, and you're nothing but frustrated about this process. But it is, and it makes a difference on whether the board is weighed in on this and whether it has that same standing.
So is your intention to make this an element, this cultural master plan, an element of the plan, like the Parks and Rec plan, like the open space plan? That's what I would think would be appropriate.
I don't know if you would do that, to tell you the truth, because then you have a plan that was created a couple years before the comprehensive master plan, and so it's kind of taken out of its element and trying to put into a plan that it may not fit. I think maybe the proper step is to take this plan and say, we recognize that this plan is dated to some degree, but it's still functional as a cultural, community cultural master plan, and ask the board to endorse this with the caveat that it's going to go through an analysis by the Culture Commission for possible revisions through the course of a year.
Roger, the Envision 2006 plan that we're working forward with for downtown right now.
Right.
This is no different. This was a plan done a long time ago that we are now revisiting, looking at, just updating, but moving forward on. I see this as no different, and I think that's what Mary is saying too.
I'm a little concerned, I just have a little, but I don't work within the realm of the Board of Supervisors, but I'm a little concerned that they'll look at that and say, you're right, several of those things have been achieved. We don't need to fund it.
Right.
So I'm just going to throw that out there.
I think one of the reasons that people do a cultural master plan is, there are several reasons. One is that in the process of creating a cultural master plan, there is a lot of community engagement and development that goes on between a lot of different entities and stakeholders within the community, finding out about other entities in the community and incorporating them into what the overall community would like to see. And one of the places where this plan is shy, I would say, is that and also at that time, the demographics of our community were very different, as Roger mentioned. And so one of the updates that really needs to happen is sort of a reassessment, and it doesn't have to be massive, it doesn't have to be costly, but somebody does have to pay attention and do it in a forthright and sensitive manner and reach out to all of the aspects of this community, whether it's Native American or Hispanic or all of the different ethnic people that are in this community now that were not part of this community or were not addressed in this plan. That's important because you can't have a whole community you lose a lot of the richness that's in your community if you don't do that process. So that's something that probably would be part of your assessment, whatever cultural assessment you have to do to update this plan. That's one of the reasons that people do a cultural master plan. They do an assessment, they do an inventory, they find out who's in that community, who's doing what, who are the artists, who are the people who are showing art, who does visual arts, who is doing performing arts, where are the places that people gather, what do people like to do, how do they appreciate it, how do they take in their art. And how people take and respond to art now, or performing arts, is very different than it was in 2002. People want a lot more participation. They want to be more part of it. They've got their phones. You know, it's a different world, and that has to be updated. Those are all things that are doable. There's a lot of really smart people in this community. So those are a couple of the reasons. And then, again, as I mentioned, the other reason is when you have a cultural master plan, and when larger funding agencies, national and regional funding agencies, look at your community, they go, oh, this community's on the ball. This community is up to date. It's up to speed. It has taken into account, you know, all of the most current trends, the best knowledge and practices that we have. They have a plan. They're worthy of looking at a little closer in funding. We are the capital city of Nevada. It's, you know, we need to have this plan, and a lot of people already put a lot of work into it. So I don't know what the mechanism is, but it's like when you have a cultural master plan, that says a lot about your community. And one of the things that this community does incredibly well, thanks to people like Vern, is planning. When you look at all of these plans over time, it's almost prescient. I mean, you know, the open space plan and all of the wonderful places that we have to hike and bike and be outside now. People thought about it. They took it into account, and they're making it happen. This town does planning really well. Let's make this a cultural master plan. How do you do that? It seems like to me, seems like it's already in there, but do you need to take the extra step and call it that? Do you need to make a separate document? I mean, clearly it needs to be updated. And, you know, I see your point, Terry, and that, you know, people might go, well, it's already done. What else do we need to do? But there's so much more that needs to happen. So many things have changed.
I think there might be a way to reword this action so that it focuses on updating the plans we already have, incorporating them into an updated cultural master plan, so that we're not saying we never had one, because we did.
Right.
But we're not saying it was an official plan either.
Right.
I don't know how to say it, but we don't want to say we're pursuing the development of a cultural plan. It's more like we're updating previous assessments into a current.
Well, what if you said we are updating and adapting the already adopted Creative Capital Community Arts Plan into the Carson City Cultural Master Plan? Sure. What if you said something as simple as that?
Good. Did someone write that down?
Well, it's on the table.
so that we can have a motion, if we're ready for that.
Well, you know, I'd like to hold off just a little bit on the motion and maybe get some more discussion, because I think we're hitting on some pretty key things. And Terry, you made a comment that if we brought this to the board, people may say, it's already there, and we don't need to fund it. Well, I think we need to talk about what we're funding. We're not necessarily funding the plan. No. What the recommendations is to fund the recommendations, the elements of the plan.
The elements.
And that's why the commission needs to go through and look at each one of those recommendations and decide and make your recommendation, which ones are still relevant, which ones still need to be funded.
But I think all we're saying now is that we want to use. I think what we're saying now is that we want to use these to develop the master plan. Not that we're saying it's done or it's half done or anything like that. And everything that wasn't done involved money. So that's the part that we really have to emphasize at this point.
Well, I want to make a real quick example, and I'll turn it over to you. The discussion we had about enlarging the auditorium, the theater, that may or may not be feasible. So that's why, staff will have to get back with you and take a look at that and say, is it feasible to hang a balcony in there and to get that from 700 and some seats to 1,200 seats?
There's no reason. We're going to be doing something on that theater. So whether it's enlarged or not, it's still part of this original plan. And so we will go through those things as we evaluate. But the larger issue is we're never going to get anywhere in terms of funding unless we get a plan in place.
That's correct. But you want to make sure you're saying the right thing, because if it actually says enlarge in here to 1,200 seats, we need to decide if that's still feasible.
If possible.
Yeah.
We also need the 400-seat one, the 350-seat one.
Right, and there's several things that were mentioned, WNC may not be a viable partner in the entire community's arts campaign. So there's things that probably should be stricken out and other things that need to be added, like the Latino community arts needs that were not addressed in this. And so, getting back to what Mary's question was, what is the mechanism to move forward quickly utilizing much of this?
I think probably the mechanism would be for staff, Vernon and I, to go back and craft a letter that we think meets the intent of this conversation, this dialogue we're having, bring that back to you folks and get your input on that letter, and then move forward with.
Does it have to be brought, can we bring that letter via email and correspond that way, so that we're not waiting another quarter or another whatever till the next meeting?
Yeah, that's not till July.
Now, if you want to go ahead and make your statement tonight and craft a statement tonight, we can put that in the motion. But we certainly can't deliberate via email, then we're going to have some problems with open meeting law.
I don't mean that. I mean, you're not deliberating that way, but you're going to send out your letter, and then each of us individually can send out our criticism.
We can certainly do that.
Or addition, or subtraction, or whatever.
We could do that. We'd have to be under the restrictions that you apply only back to us and not deliberate among yourselves.
So a letter would be attached and brought forward to the Board of Supervisors as part of the strategic planning. And the letter would be open-ended enough that we could go through these points at some point in time?
Well, maybe we don't have to make a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors at this time. Maybe what we need to do is update that plan. And what we can do is let them know that we are. Mary?
You go first.
Yeah, Sharon.
Don't muddy the water with getting funding into this thing right now. Do A first. Accept the capital cultural thing as a cultural plan, done. That's it. Say that the commission with input will tweak the things that need updating. Period. Done. Then you go to part B and say, then we can talk about funding. Don't get muddied and divert off into which theater is which and what needs that. Stay with the main plan is to get a cultural thing and get it through the Board of Supervisors. So stay focused on that, and then they've got to know that we need money, that the Cultural Commission needs funding. I mean, I've fussed about it at the Board of Supervisors meeting a lot, so.
Some of these items mention public support for getting these things done.
Well,
that's money.
Yeah, but you don't need to make them focus on that. Just say, here's a plan. We want this accepted, and the commission will continue to update things because this was created a long time ago. Just do that. Get that done.
I have a question here as, again, the new person. Is the beginning of this is you want the Board of Supervisors to direct this commission to pursue the development of a cultural plan, update it, et cetera, and move on? I mean, if we get bogged
can't you
down-
tell them it's already got one?
But it needs to be tweaked.
Well, yeah, you can say that we'll fix it.
But you want the Board of Supervisors to direct this commission to be the group, the agency that moves this thing forward, right?
Karen, does that have to have?
Something here?
What am I missing?
Yeah, I have a question. Excuse me for 1 second. I have one question. What if you change the wording, as Ellie suggested, to say something similar to recommend to the Board of Supervisors that basically use the Carson City Arts Assessment and to recognize that the Carson City Arts Assessment and the Creative Capital Community Arts Plan are the basis for the Carson City Cultural Master Plan. And so it's already done. Just say what it is. Recognize that this is the basis for this and that it needs to be updated.
That's closer.
And
That's
introduced
closer.
into the strategic master plan as a cultural master plan or as a component like that, to be reintroduced under a new name and new title, and that ultimately what you want to do with it is to update it.
You know what, can I add to that? And I think that's really heading in the right direction, but I would change the wording from, instead of "are the basis," "is."
Yeah, is the basis, yeah.
And I would make a statement recognizing that it needs to be updated, because it was formed in 2002. Recognize that it needs to be updated, and the Cultural Commission will report back to the Board of Supervisors with recommended updates or changes.
So, I mean, you're recognizing that it already is, because that's what it is. It's been adopted into all of your plans. It's been referenced. It's been, everybody who was involved in it was involved in the community, in city government, supervisors, the mayor was on here. It just wasn't called a cultural master plan, and it wasn't a separate document, but it was part of all of your strategic vitality plan. So just, if you can change that tonight to change this, to say to recognize, and that the Cultural Commission is responsible for updating it, I think you're done.
And I think Sharon's exactly right. I think if you focus on the funding, then the board is going to focus on the funding.
I will say that there are communities in Nevada that have been doing for 20 years talking about performing arts venues. So if you get bogged down in that, we'll never get anywhere. But I think you guys are done.
That was not part of what we were acting on. We were acting on the wording for the recommendation to the Board of Supervisors. And originally, it said for pursuing the development of a cultural plan. And what I was suggesting, and I was trying to get help with the wording, was for updating the documents that were the basis for our cultural planning in the past.
Yeah, and that's genius. I mean, if that's what you can do, that's...
Well, it's not perfect yet, but we're getting there. We all know what we want to say, but...
The funding portion is the last line of this document.
It's in there.
It's already there.
I'm just saying, you don't hit them with the funding part of it. It's in the plan. That's part of the plan. That's a recommendation in the plan. So when they adopt the plan, they're adopting and recognizing that one of the recommendations is the funding.
Well, and you pointed out earlier at the very beginning of this discussion that the 2005 strategic plan called for implementation of the arts plan, correct? And that was approved? So they've approved implementation. Again, getting back to then, where's the money? But maybe that needs to be brought to their attention.
That could be included in the letter. That it was, an approved document, the Vitality Strategic Plan recommended implementation of this plan.
And can we say seeking funding and then add along with Nevada Arts Council, because otherwise we're leaving the Board of Supervisors, the city, out of funding. Because it says in the motion, ladies, that we have in front of us. It says in this motion,
including seeking Nevada Arts Council grants and other grant funding opportunities, and nothing about the responsibility of the community to be funding this. It doesn't say anything.
Where does it say that?
I'm reading it right here.
December 16th, 14.
Right, the last meeting, when you made the motion. That's why I looked at this and I thought, wait a minute, everybody's off the hook, except we have to go out and get the funding from arts organizations. Am I wrong here, reading this wrong?
May I weigh in?
Yeah.
To recommend to the Board of Supervisors that they recognize that the Carson City Arts Assessment and the Creative Capital Carson City Community Arts Plan is the basis of the Cultural Master Plan for Carson City, and that it will be adopted into the Comprehensive Master Plan as such, and with the Cultural Commission responsible for updating the plan, the cultural master
Will
plan.
be updated by the Cultural Commission and adapted into the, I'm just reorganizing it.
Can you do that? Can you change the wording
You
of
could.
this? And
You could, and the other way,
fait
another way
accompli.
you could have a letter with a recommended action item for the Board of Supervisors that says, realizing that the vitality, what is it, the economic vitality strategic plan recommended the implementation of the creative capital plan. Therefore, the Culture Commission is asking the Board of Supervisors to recognize the creative capital plan as the city's arts and cultural master plan. I mean, it's already been
Right.
in a document that has been, well, actually two documents that
Yeah.
have been adopted by the board.
Somebody want to write that, should we write that up and somebody make a motion and to reword this and then just adopt it?
I really need some help on this one. How can we sit here as a group when you've printed a motion for possible action? Can you change that without noticing the public, or do we
Yes,
just
you
do
can.
it?
Well, this already happened. That already happened. So this is our recommended action.
You can change the recommended action. That's just a recommended action from staff.
Okay, I'm learning.
Yeah, that happened at the last meeting, so that's already been
So
done and over.
maybe it just should say that, recognizing that the Creative Capital
No, we're
Plan
still at the very beginning.
was, that there was a recommendation in the 2005 Economic Vitality Strategic Plan to implement the Creative Capital Plan, but now that it's 10 years later, we would like a recommendation to update it as part of the
Beginning the stuff with it.
Cultural master.
Cultural Master Plan for Carson City.
I can't write that
Wait,
fast.
can you pause for 60 seconds and let Mary write?
You have to say it again, because I can't write that fast.
Okay, the Creative Capital Plan was, or the 2005 Economic Vitality Strategic Plan recommended implementation of the Creative Capital Plan of 2002, and we would like to recommend to the Board of Supervisors that the Commission update the Creative Capital Plan
Cultural. But don't you need to say that?
as the Cultural Master Plan for Carson City. When you get it written down, then you can tweak it some more.
Okay, this is what I have. The 2005 Economic Vitality Strategic Index recommend recommended implementation of the Creative Capital Plan dated 2002. We recommend, or Carson City Cultural Commission recommends that the commission update the capital plan as the cultural master plan for Carson City. Okay.
I think that's pretty heavy wording. I guess I would support revising this wording that's under 3G to recommend to the Board of Supervisors to recognize the Carson City Arts Assessment and the Creative Capital Arts Plan as the basis. Is the Cultural Master Plan for Carson City. And then in the letter that we attach to the 2002 document, we point the supervisors to their approval of implementation of the 2002 arts plan in their 2005 strategic vision document.
Would you like to make that as a motion?
I'll second it.
Me too. Yes. That makes sense.
No, that's separate. So the word update will go in the letter then?
Right. Yeah.
This is just a recommendation, a standalone recommendation to forward to the Board of Supervisors. And that is to recommend to them that they recognize the Carson City Arts Assessment and the Creative Capital Arts Plan is. They recognize that the Carson City Arts Assessment and the Creative Capital Arts Plan is the basis, is the cultural master plan for Carson City.
Perfect.
Good. Yes.
You're a genius, Terry.
That could be the recommendation, and we'll bring that to the board as a board action item. And in the board action report, we'll do the background information about the previous plans and how they were adopted and the references to the creative capital plan. So they have that background, they'll understand.
Right, by fiat, basically, as I noticed in one of Vern's reports, one of his comments, by fiat, they kind of adopted this already.
That was a motion and seconded?
Second.
Karen seconded.
Either way.
Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Yay. Yay.
We were just discussing over here, can you imagine writing the U.S. Constitution?
They did it more quickly.
No, they did it without air conditioning.
Yes. And I'm freezing to death up here.
Public comment for that.
And then you take a break.
Public comment.
Thank you.
I think so.
Okay.
Do you have to announce it?
What are the dates for the appearing at the Board of Supervisors and all that?
For the strategic plan?
Yeah.
It's the 26th from 12 to 2, and then what's the evening time?
And I think it's 5 to 7.
5 to 7, and then the 30th, the same thing, same dates, or same time frames.
12 to 2, and then 5 to 7.
Right.
And that's when the arts community should be there to
Make comment on
Make
the
comment.
strategic plan that culture and arts be included in the plan.
So March 26th and March 30th. 12 to 2 where?
Fuji Park on the 26th, Community Center on the 30th.
Okay.
And Sharon, if I think we've got your email. We'll double check that, and we'll send
Okay.
an email out to everyone with the. make sure we
Okay,
have the times
I'll
correct.
make sure my board knows.
Wait, you have to vote. Don't they have to vote again after public comment?
The Cultural Commission is taking a 5-minute break beginning at 8:19. We will resume with item 3H, to recommend to the Board of Supervisors approval of the Cultural Commission's annual report for 2014-15 and work plan for 2015-16.
Second.
Move it on. Move it on.
Yeah, I know, I have rebellion in the ranks, I've been so told, so that's okay. We'll go through this very quickly, and we'll try to get everybody out of here, but this is important. I mean, I know this has been a long evening for everybody. We've had some great people here this evening, giving us wonderful things about what's happening in Carson City. But this sets the stage for what staff will work on, and that's one of the things that I think is important, is that if it goes on here, staff feels very comfortable working on it. If it doesn't go on this plan, we tend, because we end up in a situation where we've got a lot of other priorities, and if the board doesn't say these are priorities for them, it makes us a little reluctant to take on those tasks, if that makes sense. So, bear with me. Hopefully you've had a chance to read this, and you've come prepared to discuss it, but basically what it boils down to is that we're required by Carson City Municipal Code to submit an annual work plan report, an annual report and work plan to the Board of Supervisors. The Open Space Advisory Committee does that. There are a number of committees that do this and get board approval on their work plan and their annual report. The first part of the report is pretty much what you have done this past year. You have been on the tour, the public art tour in Reno. That I thought was a big hit. And we also talk different things about what you've been involved with. We've also talked about making and continuing constructive communication with the Arts and Cultural Coalition, the Brewery Arts Center, the Carson City Arts Initiative, and of course the International Film Festival. We've also had updates from commission members on a number of other different projects, the greenhouse projects, the State of Nevada Sesquicentennial Celebration. Commissioner Barton gave us reports on those on a regular basis. So anyway, this is the information that I provided in the first half of the report basically comes right off of your meeting index, your agenda items. The next part of the cultural report, the Cultural Commission report, is what we're going to be working on next year. There are 7 items, or at least this is what staff is proposing. We can add, take off, tweak, do whatever you want to do. But I just took a run at that as a courtesy for the commission to help move things along. You can react to. If you like all 7, we can move on. If we want to have further discussion, then you're welcome to do that as well. And then the last third of the report, we are also required to provide attendance records to the Board of Supervisors, what the attendance records are. According to the board, commissions, and committee members, all members of the committee need to at least attend 75% of all meetings within the previous 12 months. So with this commission, since we only meet quarterly, you're really only allowed to miss one meeting over the year, based on what the board has set for policy. So having said that quickly, and I've gone over this, I am more than happy to make notes, comments, whatever you want to do.
Can we change in, I guess, page 1, 4B, update the language so that it reflects the actual motion we made?
Well, no, that's what happened last year.
No, this is referencing today.
The work plan.
Right, but what you're talking about is, this is what basically, okay.
March 15th, or 2015.
Okay, it does, okay, all right.
So March 17th, 2015, because that's referencing today.
Correct, okay, you're right.
So just update that so that the recommendation is on par with what we actually decided to.
You're talking 4B, is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Got it. Good catch.
And then, so I guess, under our, moving forward, number 1 would be not necessarily pursue the development, but pursue the refinement of the cultural plan.
Or updating.
Yeah, so the refinement and updating of.
So we're going to be asking the Board of Supervisors to take the plan as is and adopt it, and then update it and then the commission updates it. If I understood the motion correctly?
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay. So we're going to ask them to adopt it as is, and then we'll make updates. Okay, all right, got it. I'll make that change.
Thank you.
No, not a problem. That's why we have these things.
So Vern, does the work plan then reference the development of a master plan? And do we need to change the wording there too?
That's what I just.
That's what you,
Oh,
yeah.
I thought that was the report,
Well, there's
the annual report.
There's the annual report, and then there's the work plan for next year.
Okay, so the
that's what
work
we're
plan
changing.
is what we're changing, not
Correct.
the report. Thank you. That's what I was just reminding, if it's in both places, let's change the wording in both places.
Absolutely, and that was a very good catch. No, we'll get that, we'll make sure that they are matching.
Another thing is, since I know that we've got a special meeting coming up in May, can we find a way of I don't know, of adding, just staying involved with the corridor, the arts and cultural elements of the various corridor projects? So that's on our work plan too, because we definitely want you helping us with that.
No, I can add that as a number 8. I can do that. Okay, very good. Any other thoughts? All right, we're good. Just a motion. Yep.
Ready for a motion?
I move to recommend to the Board of Supervisors approval of the Cultural Commission's annual report for 2014-15 and work plan for 2015-16 with the adjustments made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any public comment?
Now, I promised that I would get through these in about a minute per agenda item. So if the chair would allow me to move quickly, I will go through each agenda item very quickly.
I allow it.
Okay, so for staff updates, 4A, related to the downtown Carson Street, 3rd Street Plaza, and Curry Street projects. This public meeting that is coming up on April 20th, 2015, that's a Monday. Again, that's Monday, April 20th, 2015. We just need to get the arts and community culture, or we need to get the arts and cultural community out to these things. What's going to happen is the consultant team is going to come in and they're going to start looking at design components and design elements within the downtown. And they're going to be asking for public opinion. My understanding is they're actually going to do voting. It's really kind of cool. It's kind of real-time voting. So come out, be involved.
Vern, what time? When?
Yeah, where are you? I'm not seeing this.
4A.
4A. Maybe I'm going too fast. I'm sorry. Under staff updates, 4A, we're talking about the public meetings that will occur, talking about the design of the downtown Carson Street, 3rd Street Plaza, and Curry Street.
What time?
I do not have the times right now, but they just they're on their radar screen. We'll be getting out those times a little bit later. But the way I understand it, they're going to have kind of a morning session, kind of like what we did the last time. There'll be kind of a noon session-ish, kind of around noon, and then there'll be an evening one. So keep that on your radar. There'll be more, as we get closer, obviously, there'll be more information coming out, but I wanted to alert everybody to that fact. And as I know more, I'll get it out to you guys. The next thing, Roger and Lee have been having conversations about the redevelopment authority being able to use some of their funds that the Cultural Commission will help recommend to the Board of Supervisors on arts and cultural events. There's going to be a special meeting. We want to make sure you guys are there to be a part of that. It is going to be, so get that on your calendar. It's going to be Wednesday, May 6th.
Here, same time, same place?
Yep. same time, same place. It'll just be Wednesday, May 6th. And we'll get more information out to you as a time. But the way it works is, and correct me if I'm wrong in any of this, Roger, but the way it works is that different organizations come in and apply for grant funding. The Redevelopment Authority has money. The new plan now is that if it's a special event within the redevelopment area, the Redevelopment Citizens Committee is going to deal with it. If it's a cultural or an arts event, then the Cultural Commission will be able to have that voice and that recommendation to the board. That's my understanding, correct? Is that Karen?
Yes, that's accurate.
Okay.
Will we need a Citizens Advisory Committee?
No, you're it.
And the grant deadline, though, is before that meeting?
Is before the 6th meeting?
Yes. Yes.
Really?
Yes.
What was the question?
Huh. They're saying is that the RAC deadline is actually April 15th? Yeah, this is May 5th.
That's when you have to turn your information in, correct?
Yeah, that's the deadline.
That's the deadline for you.
Yeah, that's the
For
deadline for you,
applicants.
for the applicants.
So you're going to divide up the grants?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. Yep. Then the other thing on, again, I'm running really quick. Any questions, or are we doing okay here with my speed updating here? Related to item 4C, one of the things that came out of our working with Erica Gallegos on the Fullstone Wetlands Mural Project is that I've approached the Carson City AP art class teacher related to future senior mural projects. I'm going to be giving a presentation March 30th to the AP class using Erica's PowerPoint. I'm going to steal it, basically. And she said it was okay, I asked, and present to them what she did. And so, I would like to invite the chair or vice chair, those are those new roles you've just received, to come along if you want and be a part of the presentation. If not, that's fine. I can go and make my little presentation. It's on Monday morning, March 30th. If either the chair or vice chair want to come along, contact me, send me an email, and I'll get you dates and times. And then the last item, I'm sorry, again, I'm moving quickly. Any questions? Are we okay? And then under 4D, which is update on the Fullstone Wetlands Mural Project, it's almost done. Matter of fact, we got a call from them saying, let's coordinate. I'm putting the finishing touches on it so you can put your graffiti coating on it. So we're that close. And then I'm hoping to have her, I may try to sneak her in on the Wednesday meeting we're having in May, just because, it's so exciting. If you get a chance to go out there, get out there, because
we should have a field trip with her.
It's come along really, really well, and I go out there every week or week and a half just to see her progress, and I was out there today, and it's amazing what she's done and how she's really taken those images that we've seen the commission, we've shown the commission. It's like she just took it off the piece of paper and plopped it up on the wall. It's really cool. So anyway, I wasn't quite 5 minutes, but I appreciate your patience, and nothing was thrown, and I'm going home physically fine. So thank you very much for being patient with me. This time, thank you.
Any public comments on those? Karen, do you want to do your report, or would you?
I'll make it really quick. I just want to let you know that the Dean of Ag from UNR and Congressman Amadei on separate visits came out to the greenhouse, and we're really quite impressed with what's going on out there. Camille Jones is moving on to the University of Montana. It's what we do. We raise them and let them go. It breaks my heart. But Corey King will be her replacement as our greenhouse manager. And we had 10 applicants, all very, very qualified, so it's huge. And May 9th is our spring plant sale in the spirit of horticulture, and it'll be from 8 until 1. And then in the spirit of music, to fundraise, July 8th will be our 7th annual Concert Under the Stars. Pablo Cruz and Ambrosia will be the acts. Tickets go on sale March 23rd. And we have 64 flower baskets sponsored. Thank you for all of those that stepped up and sponsored. They'll go out June 1.
How many do you need?
That's all we have. That's it. Thank you.
Does anybody else want to report about projects? Any public comments? Call for adjournment?
So moved.
Second. Anybody opposed?
Not at all.